Welcome to the Horse Frog Podcast. I'm Kamran.
And I'm Billy.
Billy, what would you say we do here?
Well, we like to dig deep into a bunch of books and shows and movies that we love.
In excruciating detail, right?
In excruciating detail. And we like to talk about things that we like about them, what they make us think, and what we learn from them. And a lot of times we're going to go off topic, but we're going to bring it back in. Basically, it is just two guys hanging out talking about their favorite stuff. And it's not meant to be a replacement for anything. It's meant to be a companion to anything that we're talking about, any shows, any movies, any books that we're talking about. And we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Hopefully you'll enjoy the show with us.
One final note before we begin the episode. If you would like to support our show, we have a Patreon set up. You can find the link at horsefrogproductions.com. You can also email us with any feedback at contact@horsefrogproductions.com. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description. Today we're covering The Boys, the Amazon Prime show, Season 3, Episode 4. As is tradition, we like to give a little warning before covering episodes of this show. This show is intended for a mature audience and has extreme violence and some scenes of sexual misconduct. If these topics upset you, then we do not recommend you continue listening. We have a number of corrections and additions that we need to add in before the episode today. When we were discussing shaky cam in Season 3, Episode 2, we did kind of offhand mention that we'd look up some industry standard best practices for when to use shaky cam.
Right.
I looked up kind of the definition of shaky cam, and then I had a couple examples in here that might interest you, given the directors that started using it. Yeah. Shaky cam is often employed to give a film sequence an ad hoc electronic news gathering or documentary film feel. It suggests unprepared, unrehearsed filming of reality and can provide a sense of dynamics, immersion, instability, or nervousness. So this is kind of like what you were talking about, where you would like to see that type of use in a ground shot on a battlefield, something along those lines.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Where you feel it's more immersive in that situation, and they even say that in the description.
Mm-hmm. Right. There was some use of it in the 60s, but the examples that stuck out to me, in 1981, the shaky cam style was named and given new energy. In the film The Evil Dead, director Sam Raimi ordered Tim Philo, his cinematographer, to bolt a camera to a 2x4-inch piece of lumber, 22 inches long, and have two strong grips hold it and run down a city block, bumping over fallen bodies, following a female character, after which the camera was swung roughly around to go the other way. Another shaky camera effect invented on that film was one the crew called Blanco Cam, where the cameraman would lie on a blanket and be carried in it by four grips. The camera pointed near ground level to track people's feet. Further shaky cam techniques were employed by Sam Raimi on his subsequent films, including Crime Wave in 1985.
I never saw Crime Wave, but I've seen a majority of Raimi films, and I've always been a big fan. Now, I see under here that you're going to bring up Coen brothers, and interesting thing, I don't know if you know this, but the Coens and the Raimis had like a commune almost. I don't want to say a commune. It's like they owned an apartment building and lived in there together, as because I'm sure they had separate floors or whatever. But I mean, it was just one of these things that they're just that close. The Raimis and the Coens are.
Interesting.
So I'm just curious if it may. I'd never looked too much into the Coens' history. If maybe they went to film school together, or if they shared some of these techniques because they're buddies, and So I'm just kind of curious about that. I'll try and make a note of that too.
Okay, we'll come back on that. And the final point on this, in 1984, the Coen brothers and their cinematographer Barry Sonnenfeld used shaky cam techniques in Blood Simple, then again in 1987's Raising Arizona. Now,
have you seen Blood Simple?
Not yet. You did mention it in Season 1 that it's on HBO Max, I believe. Yes, so I have yet to watch it. But I thought this was particularly interesting because we were talking about Coen brothers. We love most of their movies.
Yes.
Additionally, the mention of Barry Sonnenfeld, we've also talked about Get Shorty.
Yes. I love Get Shorty.
And then he also directed Men in Black.
Oh, that's right. I think he also did the Solaris remake with Clooney.
I thought that was, what's the guy that did Ocean's 11? I thought that was him.
Maybe it is. It's Soderbergh. You're right, Soderbergh.
Steven Soderbergh directed that. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He has a very distinctive style that you immediately recognize. Yeah. Movies like Traffic, the Solaris movie looks similar. He did Contagion.
I think, is that Is that the one with Lawrence Fishburne?
Yes, where he was the CDC director.
I've seen that, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, that gained a lot of popularity at the beginning of the epidemic.
Oh yeah. Okay. Oh, okay. Then I haven't. No, then I never saw that one. Then I didn't know it was that new.
Well, I mean, it was out for a long time. It just got repopularized at the beginning. Everybody started watching it, and they freaked out when they saw.
Sure. That and probably Andromeda Strain. I'm guessing.
Andromeda Strain was way worse than anything that we had going on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I only read the book. I never saw the movie.
I've only seen the 70s movie.
Yeah.
I think Crichton himself directed that, possibly.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
All right. We need to move on. There was another point that we need to come back on. When A-Train was proposing his Middle Passage video game for the VS4, the rating was Y, and it had extreme violence, and I forget what the other two were, but it was bad stuff going on.
It should have been like, MA or something.
Right. We weren't sure what the ratings were, if Y was an actual rating. So I just brought out the ESRB ratings real quick. Y is not one of them. You have rating pending, and then rating pending likely mature 17 plus. They have E for everyone. They have E 10 plus. That's everyone 10 or older. They have teen, mature 17 plus, and adults only 18 plus. So that's all they have in the United States right now.
I laugh at the everyone 10 plus because then that means that everyone under 9 is not everyone.
Yeah. They fall within everyone E, not everyone E 10 plus or whatever.
Right. It's like we're discriminating.
Yeah.
They don't have money. What do I care? I'm just kidding.
It's almost like it should have been like preteen or something.
Right.
No.
It's
like teen and then preteen before that, and then everyone under, I don't know. Whatever.
I don't know. I get lost in that mess anyhow.
During season 3, episode 2, I fired some shots at the individuals who like to put butter directly on their toast without putting, jam on their toast directly without putting butter on first. Dane, one of our listeners, has weighed in, and he was saying 99% of the time he puts jam only, no butter.
Righteous.
But he feels that it is better. Hold on. Let him. Okay. You got to hear his whole thing. He feels it is better with butter on it, and not putting butter on the toast, in his case, is likely related to the extra effort of getting the butter out of the fridge.
Oh, nice. Thanks, Dane. Mine is a texture thing, dude. It's strictly a texture and a sogginess issue. By the time I'm putting the jam on there, it's getting soggy. I mean, I can deal with it, but I would prefer it, crispy when I'm eating it with either.
Man, it doesn't last long enough for me for it to get soggy. So
that's true. Not normally, but I'm sorry. I just wig out on things. I overemphasize things.
I asked my mother-in-law about this. I was talking to her the other day. She said she also does jam only, but then her mother, who was from Germany, put butter and then jam.
Sure. Okay.
So we're kind of getting ourselves. It's pretty split down the middle. Yeah. And this is a very small sample size. I would not say it's significantly, or it's
it's not indicative.
No, it's I'm drawing a blank. It's not of statistical significance. I need a larger sample size to defend. I think I need about 2,500 people to weigh in before I can say it's like a significant sample size. So, but that's all the additions and corrections we had today. Episode 4. The episode begins with a recorded episode of Solid Gold.
Solid Gold. I about tripped out. I'm sorry. I tripped out when it hit. I was like, wow. I didn't like it, but you watched it because you didn't have cable.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I didn't know what it was.
It's dreadful is what it is. But you just had to put up with it.
This was airing when I was maybe 3-4 years old.
Okay.
So I looked up Solid Gold. Solid Gold is an American syndicated music television series that debuted on September 13th, 1980 and ran until July 23rd. I didn't finish that. July 23rd what?
This should July 23rd.
I want to say it was 1988.
Next year.
It's still going, actually. July 23rd of 1988, I think it said it was.
Okay.
The show hosts and guests are introduced Marilyn McCoo is an American singer, actress, and television presenter who is best known for the lead female vocalist in the group The Fifth Dimension, as well as hosting the 1980s music countdown series Solid Gold, which we were talking about.
Gold. Yeah.
Kim Carnes is an American singer and songwriter. In her breakthrough year, 1980, Carnes was commissioned by Kenny Rogers to co-write the songs for his concept album, Gideon. And their duet,
I didn't realize that he had a concept album.
What's a concept album? I don't know the terminology.
Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, thematically, an album that is thematically run through from front to end. It's akin to a rock opera, like Pink Floyd's The Wall. Again, Pink Floyd is the main ones that would do a concept album. But you hear some other people do it. One of the newer guys I listen to, David Maximicic, a Serbian guitarist, has an album called Who Bit the Moon that has the musical themes running from the first song to the last song. And that's what I mean by a concept album. It's almost like a musical. You know, it's an album is musical, but you know, a concept album is a music has a story usually, kind of front to end.
Okay. Continuing on with the Kenny Rogers team up with Kim Carnes, they had a duet, Don't Fall in Love with a Dreamer, that hit number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100 and earned the duo a Grammy Award nomination. Later that year, her cover of Smokey Robinson's More Love from her 5th album, Romance Dance, hit number 10. The following year, she released Mistaken Identity, which featured the worldwide hit Bet Davis Eyes. This became the
Betty.
No, that's the name. Is that how you say it?
You say Betty? It's Betty. It's Betty. But it's spelled that way. But it's Betty. That's old school Betty, but it's Betty Davis Eyes, yes.
I take issue with this spelling. But
it's okay.
Whatever.
That's okay. The ever-evolving language would now be Betty.
Betty Davis Eyes. This became the best-selling single of the year in the United States, spending 9 weeks at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100, going gold, and won the Grammy Award for Record of the Year and Song of the Year. Mistaken Identity went number 1 on the Billboard 200, was certified platinum, and was nominated for the Grammy Award for Album of the Year.
I was not a big fan of Solid Gold, mind you. It's just one of those blasts from the past kind of things. You're like, we didn't watch it a lot, but it was just when you see something like that, that just makes you feel like because I was 11 when that came out, and you're like, whoa, okay. It was just like, and it wasn't great. It was just, you know, sometimes you had people you liked on there. Sometimes.
Sometimes, like the Oak Ridge Boys, who are next announced in American.
I would take the Oak Ridge Boys over Kim Carnes, I'm telling you, or Marilyn McCoo for that
matter. And then they also had Waylon Parrott Flowers Jr.
and Madam.
And he was a comedian and puppeteer. He would perform Waylon Flowers, and Madam was the name of his little onstage persona. That was him and his little puppet.
Yes.
And then they announced the Solid Gold Dancers and a very special guest, Soulja Boy. And Soulja Boy is introduced. He's singing Rapture by Blondie.
It's a great bass line.
Now, funny side note on this one, I looked up the music video on YouTube for the actual song. Almost all the comments on the video are about Soulja Boy covering the song.
Too funny. That's way too funny.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's a great disco bass line, though.
We see that MM is watching this in a dark apartment. He's taken a couple pills, and as he's watching, he has his hands on the back of a dining room chair. He's watching it, and he's squeezing the chair harder and harder, and you can hear it creaking under the stress.
Is it creaking, or is he just digging in with his fingernails? Because I was waiting for it to either break or to show it, and they never showed it. So just creaking?
To me, it was creaking.
That's kind of what I think. That's what I think, too. I was just curious. I just want to make sure.
Yeah, I was waiting for it to snap. I've seen... there's one scene in particular, I can't fully visualize it, but somebody basically is doing the same thing to a chair, but it snaps, and then he actually goes after somebody.
Yes, what was that? I can't remember either.
Yeah, I'll have to try it. It'll come to me after the show's done.
Yes.
I'll probably have to add it back in. Yep. MM is having flashbacks of him sitting on the couch with his family watching the same video when it was originally airing. He's playing with a Hot Wheels or Matchbox version of a Trans Am. It's the one with the eagle on the hood.
Burt Reynolds, is it the Bandit's car?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's the one that the Bandit made popular. Yeah. And we hear a car crash in the background. The scene transitions out. This is present day. Butcher is cleaning up his green vomit with paper towels. This is immediately after the scene in the last episode where he threw up directly all over Huey.
Oh, that's nasty.
Huey walks up to him and exhales deeply. Butcher says, all right, keep your hair on. Huey aggressively says, you're on V. Butcher says, temporary V, barely lasts 24 hours. Huey asks, where'd you even get it? Butcher quips, one of them websites, boners for days. Huey says, no. None of your smirky. Butcher says, I only had one dose, all right? Gunpowder's dead. We know what we need to know. End of. Huey asks, wait, you killed Gunpowder with powers? You had superpowers? Butcher says, oh, look, let's just give it a rest, all right? It's over. I'm fine. Butcher begins to walk away. Huey asks, wait, do the others know? Butcher stops and turns around. He tells Huey, no, they do not. And if they find out, I'll put you in a coma. Then he walks out. Huey says, yeah, no, you're right. You seem totally fine.
Totally fine. No problems.
Homelander is appearing on the Cameron Coleman Hour. This is on the Vought News Network. Cameron says, so, the New York Times viciously attacked your birthday telecast, saying, and I quote, it's scary to see a man that strong, that riled up. Homelander says, yeah, well, I am riled up. I am sick and tired of the lies peddled by the mainstream media. Look, the real question here, Cam, who's behind these attacks? Who is trying to silence me? Cameron says, maybe the rich and powerful forces you mentioned in your, I thought, courageous speech. Homelander thanks him. Cameron asks, who are they? Homelander says, well, look, for the most part, they're people you've never heard of, but they operate in the shadows, and they are the ones pulling the strings, and unfortunately, they're everywhere, even inside Vought. I'm telling you, man, they're really playing up this Trump angle here.
Oh, yeah.
This is another example. Well, there is another example of this later in the episode that I'll bring up. I'll mention it whenever we get there.
And it just gets tiresome sometimes. I mean, I understand from his point of view. It's like I said, I like the Homelander being kind of crazier, but I do get tired of seeing this. This reminds me of South Park, of course, with the Wieners Out episode, Butters. Just tired of being.
It's been a long time since I saw that one.
Oh yeah, it's kind of similar. It's it's one of those, they're being persecuted because they're male, so it's that it's that same kind of mind. It's the exact same mindset, but it's Butters and his group of guys walking around with their pants down around their ankles.
Oh, is that kind of like the free the breast movement? Is it making fun of that?
That may be what it is. That could have been what they were making fun of. I'm not sure. I missed so much of that stuff until years later. I mean, I learned about cis and all that stuff from South Park like 3 or 4 years before it became mainstream. So
they're always on the bleeding edge.
They are on the bleeding edge, dude. Jim.
After Homelander says this last line, we see Mr. Edgar arrive at Victoria's house. He says, sorry, they were out of oat milk, and he hands her a coffee in a to-go cup. She asks, what are you doing here? He says, I can't drop by on a whim. She tells him, you never do anything on a whim.
Right.
Fast forward a bit, and Victoria is speaking with Mr. Edgar in the kitchen as her daughter is eating cereal and watching cartoons in the living room. I'm looking at this house, and for an orphan, she sure has a lovely house, likely in New York somewhere. It needs to be close enough for Mr. Edgar to be able to drop by. It's got to be millions of dollars.
She is a congressperson, and we do know about her affiliation with Mr. Edgar. That should say enough about where the money comes from.
So you think he's kind of helping her pay for it?
Well, last episode we saw, remember, he was reading a bedtime story to her daughter, and it's the one he used to read to her. So he raised her like a foster parent. So he obviously does care for her. At least I think he does to some extent. But I just think that she has ties to him, like he raised her like a daughter, and I'm assuming supports her. And being a congressperson doesn't hurt either.
I mean, they only make what, like $150 a year or something like that.
Yeah, but to get where she was, I'm assuming that she's been successful at whatever other schemes she's been up to that led to her getting into Congress. And that's all, and as we all know, it's all
that's a big assumption.
Well, we all know it's all backed by Mr. Edgar. We all know that he's on all sides of this equation. So it's all Edgar, either way you put it.
He might have definitely had Vought help fund her campaign.
Right. He could have bought her that congress-ship.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, influence.
Victoria tells Mr. Edgar, you can't be serious. We never go after Homelander. It is practically federal policy. He says, no one is going after anyone. Just a gentle reminder of who's in charge. I assume you saw him on Cameron Coleman this morning. He's testing boundaries. And when that happens, you have to discipline them like a parent would, like with Zoe. Victoria's getting stressed out. She says, Zoe won't rip my spine out. He says, let's not overreact. He used foul language during that birthday rant. So you make a public statement, a stern reprimand, some FCC fines, nothing serious. Just a reminder that he can't get away with anything. She sarcastically says, he's going to love that. He assures her, you'll be perfectly safe. She says, and Zoe? Mr. Edgar says, especially Zoe. Homelander might bark a little, but he won't bite. He's still afraid of me. I would never let anything happen to you or Zoe. You know that, right? And I thought when he said this, how would he be able to stop Homelander from doing anything? He can't be everywhere at once. Homelander can fly at Mach 1.5 or whatever.
Yeah.
Nobody can protect against that at all times.
No, you can't. And I've wondered about whether he has some kind of way to strip the soup of the powers, but you still have to administer it to him either through like a gas or something like that to get it to him. And I'm just, if he has some kind of cure for it. But again, we just never, that's the thing with Mr. Edgar. We don't know anything what this guy's holding. Talk about playing tight to your vest. I mean, this guy holds them tight. We never know anything.
Well,
other than what we know, which is nothing.
Victoria responds to him and says, yes, of course, and gives him a hug. Frenchie and Butcher arrive at the Russian deli that Nina owns. Butcher is searched by her guards, then goes into the back to meet with Nina. She is making some pelmeni. Now, we're going to have to add an entry into the Horse Frog cookbook.
Okay, bring it. Foodie.
Pelmeni are dumplings of Russian cuisine that consist of a filling wrapped in thin, unleavened dough. It is debated whether they originated in Ural or Siberia. Pelmeni has been described as the heart of Russian cuisine. The filling can be minced meat, which is generally pork, lamb, beef, fish, or any other kind of meat, venison being particularly traditional for colder regions, or mushrooms, or a combination of the two. The mixing together of different kinds of meat is also popular. The traditional udmurt recipe requires a mixture of 45% beef, 35% mutton, and 20% pork. That's incredibly specific.
It's extremely specific.
Various spices such as black pepper and diced onions, as well as garlic, are mixed into the filling. They are commonly topped with sour cream, mayonnaise, dill, red onions, or vinegar, all of which are traditional to the region and can be produced in the Siberian climate. Adding small amounts of cabbage, tomato, and horseradish as well right into the mince is common for certain regions.
Sounds pretty good. I'd try it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they're delicious.
Yeah, right? I like the idea of all the different meats all together. I've had all those meats. I mean, together it's got to be delightful and a little, because they're not big. I mean, they're just like a mini ravioli dumpling kind of deal. A little bit bigger than that. But
I kind of got the pierogi feel from it a little bit. Okay. Those are also kind of dumplings, but they're definitely different than those.
Right. Yeah. I think my only exotic thing that I've really ever eaten was a little Ethiopian. I had some friends that were Ethiopian, and I've eaten some of their stuff. But I've had the other stuff I've eaten is all American. Tex-Mex. I've had real Mexican food, but American Chinese is just Chinese. It's actually American. I don't think it's actually Chinese. So I think
you said you had Thai food, right?
I actually had I had the regular dish of oh my god, teriyaki. I just had a teriyaki chicken or something because that was the only thing I recognized.
So you kept it tame.
I kept it lame, tame and lame.
You gotta expand your boundaries a little bit, man.
I know. I'll go back. I'll take the little lady there again, and we'll try it out. It was a good place. It was a really nice place.
You gotta get something with Thai basil in it.
Okay,
you won't regret it.
They did. They did have their sauce for heat. You could put the heat on it, and I did have them put a little heat on it, but I don't know if it was Ray, if they added something special to it. It was good though. I'll try something.
Try some pad Thai.
Pad Thai. Okay. Is that a noodle?
Yeah. It has noodles in it.
Cool.
Yep.
I dig it. I'll try
get beef in there, chicken, different meats. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Butcher greets her and says, "You must be Nina." She says, "William Butcher." She then turns to Frenchie and says, "Sergey, why you not tell me he's so delicious? I'm making some pelmeni if you want. Of course, I cannot cook like my Sergey. His cassoulet made me come. I'm still a bit upset you stole him from me." Now, we have covered cassoulet during season 2, episode 7.
We did. No, I'm sorry.
And
You
I
covered
love.
that. I let you cover because
We covered it.
We did, but you're the foodie guy. I'm the term guy.
And I love how the Russians call him Sergey instead of Frenchie. It's great.
I think Frenchie's almost like his mad dog name. It's like he's becoming Sergey again, or Serge.
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 Butcher pets Frenchie on the head and says, well, we offered him a better home, didn't we? Nina says, so to what do I owe this pleasure? Butcher says, I'm after a particular bit of tech, a weapon you'll not be surprised to hear. And I thought you and your mates at the Kremlin might be able to help. She says, that's giving me some credit. He says, where it's due, love. Way I heard it, you filmed a couple of punters from the Interior Ministry having a right old frolic under your golden shower. Now, while this was not directly associated with Homelander, this is another one that's related to Trump. The news was saying there was a video on him getting peed on at a Russian hotel, if I remember correctly. Remember those news stories?
That was part of that Steele dossier mess, wasn't it?
I don't know. There was such a glut of information that it's hard to remember exactly where it was, but I specifically remember this was one of the allegations.
I think that was part of that, but yes, I remember that one too. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. Butcher sets a duffel bag of cash down in front of her and says, that's to cover Cherie's debt, plus $100,000 for your troubles. These bills are in mint condition. She asks, does your bureau know you're giving me their nice, clean money? Butcher says, well, it's the U.S. government, love. They'll just print more. And that really got me.
Oh, it did. It's too sad and too true,
She says, yeah, the money is good for my trouble, but what about my pain and suffering? Then there is the time spent and my stress. I have been sleeping so poorly. Butcher asks, and what would ease your pain? Nina says, Cherie. Frenchie jumps in and says, none. No way. Nina says, that is all I want. Butcher says, you and I, we're just getting started, dear love. Don't tell me there ain't no wiggle room. He says this in a very suggestive manner and has locked gazes with Nina.
Yes.
Frenchie tries to get his attention. He says, Monsieur Charcuter. Butcher aggressively interrupts him, saying Frenchie, while continuing to look at Nina, then turns to look at Frenchie. Frenchie processes this for a moment, then he walks out. Butcher looks back at Nina and gives her a big grin. We see the Mesquite Production Studio cut of the #Homelight reveal on American Heroes. Or it's American Hero.
I'm not sure.
American Hero. Homelander is saying, it's time we let the world know. Starlight and I are in love. #Homelight. Huey is watching it on a laptop. He closes the lid, lets out a sigh, and asks, when's it air? We can see that they're in Starlight's quarters in Vought Tower. Starlight says, tonight. He asks, #Homelight, you agreed to this? She says, it's like what you said, Huey, whatever it takes. This is what it takes. Huey takes her hand and says, hey, it's going to be okay. Really, let me save you for once. She says, Huey, this has to work. He assures her, it'll work. Homelander says, what'll work? Surprising both of them. He had to have heard that whole conversation. Yes. They had no noise there to cover up what they were saying. And looking back at this conversation, I guess there's nothing too incriminating that was said. They didn't really explicitly say they were doing anything about anything.
No. But the idea I have found really ridiculous this past couple seasons is that using white noise to cover up over his super hearing. This guy flies through the city of New York. Sorry, the city. He's flying outside. He's picking up conversations flying outside a building in the city. Can you imagine all of that noise? And being able to pick through all of the conversations to find the one you want. If he can do that, he can do that through Rock Your Kiss or whatever else is playing. I think the
License to Drive.
There we go. But the white noise might, it might fool a bug, but I don't think it's going to fool Homelander. I think this is something he's allowed people to think.
Okay.
Or he's not paying attention a lot of times. Because that would be a pain in the butt to constantly be doing that. I get, unless you got nothing better to do. I don't know how that works, but I think he could, if he wanted to, he can hear what he wants to, I think.
You're right, I think, because if we're going to suspend our disbelief and assume that he hasn't gone mad by having just the noise of the city constantly bombarding him, and he can have super hearing, then just a little bit of noise from a Bluetooth speaker isn't going to be enough to drown out the conversation.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
That's all I'm doing.
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Starlight thinks quickly and says, my Vought Sonic speaker setup. I'm sorry. How did you get in? He says, I have a key. Yeah, I got to keep an eye on my best girl, right? By the way, you're a sound sleeper, Starlight. They both look at him in surprise.
That's horrifying.
He says, oh, look at you two. I'm kidding. Come on, lighten up. I'm joking. But we got to go, running late.
Is he? Is he?
That's the thing. Is like, he's been in the underwear drawer.
Yeah. Oh my.
100%.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
We've seen it twice already. There's nothing.
Oh my gosh. Yes, you're right.
No doubt.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he's creepy, man.
Oh my word.
When it comes to that stuff.
Yes, it is. Yes, he is. I'm sorry. I keep flashing back to the, girls get it on. They'll get it. They get it done, sir. Yes, they sure do. Actually, I don't know why that always kind of stands on me for some reason. Oh my word.
Starlight and Huey both stand up. Homelander puts a hand on Huey's chest, stopping him as he tries to walk by. He says, Rolling Stone cover shoot, hot issue. We got hottest ship. Going back to the shipping.
Right. That's too funny.
Homelander has a Sharpie and he grabs Huey's arm cast and he autographs it. He continues, don't you worry, Huey. This little love affair is strictly for the cameras. Although that's how me and Maeve got started out. And that got quite spicy. Yeah, I'm not kidding, man. Let's just say that Maeve can bend a steel pipe without using her hands. He chuckles and asks, what's she like? She a good... Starlight's eyes begin to glow. Huey squares up to Homelander and actually takes a step towards him.
Are you impressed by this? Because I am.
I mean...
It's suicidal, but I'm impressed.
Yeah. I guess that's the best way to describe it. I don't... In a fit of rage, men can do silly things, this is a silly thing because
it's a very silly thing.
But
yeah, exactly. But at least he's showing that he's got a spine, and when it beats seeing him ask her to open the stinking lid every 2 seconds. Yeah.
Now, this move by Huey surprises Homelander. Homelander says, "Whoa." Starlight says, "Touch him or anyone he cares about, and I'll walk, and I'll take my approval points with me." Homelander clicks his tongue, then whispers, "Women." He shakes his head, then says, "I'm kidding. You really need to lighten up, guys. Come on, Starlight. Mario's waiting." Starlight's eyes stop glowing, and Homelander walks out. She tells Huey, "I'll call you later," and leaves. Huey lets out his breath, then looks down at the autograph on his cast, which says, "Best, Homelander." Now, that was... from their perspective, I can imagine an extremely stressful situation. Yes. Even if Homelander is joking, his position of power over them with his unpredictability make it utterly incapable of joking with them.
It does. And for me, I think it's like Huey is starting to feel what Starlight went through last season when she'd be trapped alone with him. I mean, it's almost the exact same type of thing. It's not as aggressive, but it's like, it's that teasingly. I don't really mean it. It's like, but he does. I think he means every word.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think Homelander's capable of joking, in all honesty. He's capable of playing a role.
He can make the jokes, but yes. I guarantee if a joke was cast towards him, he wouldn't take it well.
No.
On a set somewhere, Ashley is speaking with A-Train. She asks, Blue Hawk? He says, mm-hmm. She says, who cares about Blue Hawk? He's way below your pay grade. A-Train says, he's brutalizing black people in Trenton. I thought Vought has a responsibility here. Ashley says, mm-hmm, and laughs. Also, Ashley parrots her behavior behind her. Ashley says, right, then turns to look at A-Train. Seeing his expression, she says, wait, you're serious? He says, I just want to talk to him. She corrects course and says, of course, social justice is so important around here. A-Train asks, well, since when? Ashley says, A-Train. Black Lives Matter is my favorite hashtag. My Insta, nothing but black screens. And look at you. You look amazing. This whole new thing you did. That is exactly what inspired this entire campaign. She motions to his new outfit. Also, Ashley says, to be silent is to be complicit.
I just want to slap also Ashley.
To be silent is to be complicit.
Silence is violence, Billy.
Well, it can be in certain cases, but not always. If I'm being silent in my living room, I'm not being complicit in anything, am I?
Depends on what you're not saying something about.
If I'm trying to go to bed, go to sleep, I mean, come on. Do I have to always spend my whole time being proud and keeping other things going in my mind all the times?
I don't know. Ashley says, so let's shoot the spot and we'll chat about Blue Hawk later. She begins to walk away. He asks, when, Ashley? She turns and says, later, A-Train, smiles, then walks off. We see the commercial in its final form. It's basically a remake of the Kendall Jenner Pepsi ad from 5 years ago. And instead of advertising Pepsi, Vought is advertising Turbo Rush, A-Train's drink.
I'm so sorry. I just now saw a picture of who Kendall Jenner was. I forgot who they were. I'm sorry. I forgot who the Jenners were.
It's part of the Kardashian clan.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at her, I'm like, and it's like, oh my goodness. So I thought maybe this was before I cut my cable, but I think I didn't cut my cable 5 years ago. I think it's about 4 years ago. So I just didn't watch commercials. I've been raised with a healthy hatred of commercials by my father. We're the first family with a VCR in our neighborhood. We tape things and would skip commercials, or my dad would mute, or he mutes the television during commercials. So I've never cared for commercials.
Mm-hmm. Well, I never saw this until people started talking about it, because it was, I forget what the issue was back then where people were protesting. I'm trying to remember. Was
it the 1% mass?
No, this was before George Floyd. Okay. I'm trying to remember what people were protesting back then.
No. I'm talking about the 1%ers. Remember those, the 99%ers or whatever they were called? You know what I'm talking about. The Wall Street people, the protesters.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That was,
I can't remember what that was, but
no, this is something else.
Okay.
If you watch the episode here, it's basically a close enough remake to where you're seeing what the ad actually was.
Okay.
Because she's basically doing a photo shoot in the real commercial.
Okay.
And she sees a protest walk by. She goes out and grabs a Pepsi and gives it to a cop. It's exactly the same thing. So like a shot for. So they're doing that here. Yeah.
Okay.
The feedback at the time was, why are you doing this? Because it's the same thing as A-Train, right? Where it's like, they don't really.
You don't care. It's a commercial.
They're doing it anyway. Like, what does Pepsi have to do? How's Pepsi going to stop a confrontation between the police and the protesters? Right. It's like
violent confrontation.
The premise of the whole premise of the commercial was ridiculous.
I always think those premises always go back. You know what it goes back to is it goes back to the old '60s thing where you see the protesters who were shot by the National Guard. Kind of thing is that kind of confrontation is what they're trying to mimic. I think. Do you know what I'm talking about from the 60s?
No, not specifically.
There was such
about the Vietnam stuff.
Yeah, the students that were killed by the National Guard. I think that's what happened in a protest.
I mean, there's plenty of examples of recent issues when the protests were going on and it got violent. People started looting and rioting and stuff, and then the police got over aggressive and.
It's the Kent State shootings is what I'm referring to from 1970. And I think that's the one, if I'm not mistaken, it's where I'll look into it a little bit more. Sorry. That was one. I always think about the kids putting try to put the image where the girl puts the flower in the barrel of the gun of the troop of the military man. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'll see if I can find this image for you. I'm sorry.
I think that sounds familiar.
Well, it's real old school. It's too old for me to remember exactly, but I'll have to dig deep for that one. Okay. I'm sorry. Move along, man.
Yeah. I looked up the actual Pepsi ad to refresh my memory, and a lot of the comments on YouTube were referencing this episode. Right. So it's interesting to see how things just kind of spread out, right? Because like I mentioned earlier, that Blondie song, that also was inundated with comments about the boys. And then like funny. the other Raquel Casbah song from season 1, same deal. It's like every song, Billy Joel's, what was the
I can't remember which
Catholic
Billy Joel.
Girl. What was the Catholic girls?
Oh yeah. Only the Good Die Young.
Only the Good Die Young, the comments, all the boys. It's just cool to see that kind of stuff, repopularizing stuff on YouTube.
Yeah.
So in the Vought ad, a protest is walking by. A-Train he's having some makeup applied for a commercial shoot. We hear someone with a bullhorn say, "We're here today for peace and love and prosperity."
Got to get me some of that prosperity.
Yeah.
Where they got it? California?
I don't know where this is supposed to be taking place. I assume they're filming in New York probably. Of course. Because that's where Vought is, right?
Yes.
A-Train asks his makeup artist, "Where are all those people going?" She says, "There's a protest down the street." A-Train begins walking towards the protesters. A man on set walks up and says, A-Train, where are you going? Almost ready to shoot. A-Train stops and tells him, this is important. We get a slow motion shot of people hanging up a peace banner. Someone else is drinking a can of Turbo Rush with extreme energy. The protesters come up on a wall of police with riot shields. The upbeat music stops. A policeman steps forward, and the woman with the bullhorn is about to start yelling in his face. A-Train pops in and hands the policeman a Turbo Rush drink. The policeman drinks it, then the party starts again.
Right.
A-Train says, we got to listen to each other. A-Train's Turbo Rush energy drink. We hear, and cut. The commercial shoot ends. So that the criticism, the message isn't bad, right?
No. It's quite.
We need to get along. You don't
really
want to see violence.
funny.
People should be allowed to have a protest. But what place does a energy drink or a soda company have in the middle of this? You know,
Dude, they're trying to even the odds for everyone. I guess give everyone energy to. I need some more Brave Made Pride bars to keep them all proud. And they can keep all jacked up while they're on energy drinks and
yeah,
and then keep the fight
18
going.
grams of vegan protein or something.
It's better than that. It's better than that unicorn thing. What?
The lasagna?
Is it unicorn drink? No. We were talking about the 18 grams of this, but I was talking about the sugar and
the unicorn frappe.
The unicorn frappe. Thank you.
78 grams of sugar, wasn't it, or something?
With some pink stuff and some blue stuff. Some vague pink stuff and blue stuff. I'm like,
pink syrup and blue syrup.
Oh.
Huey is walking up to a private jet. He's speaking with Victoria on his cell phone. He says, like 4 or 5 days maybe. She says, a hell of a week to fall off your Peloton. He tells her, look, I'm popping Vicodin like they're Tic Tacs, and my arm still kills. I'm no good to you, Vicky, really. She says, fine, okay, just stay in bed, get some rest, get better. He says, that's exactly what I'm doing. Thanks, Vic, and hangs up the phone. MM is walking next to Huey. He puts his hand on Huey's shoulder and asks, first time flying private, kid? Huey says, first time out of the country. Frenchie and Kimiko are walking behind them. Frenchie is saying, 5 years I work for Nina, 23 contracts. Never she's giving anything away. What is this? Now she's giving us the plane, those shiny passports. You think you promised her Cherie? Butcher walks up behind them and says, hell, Frenchie. What kind of monster do you think I am, eh? Enjoy. Pretend you're on Entourage. He walks into the plane. Kimiko puts her hand on Frenchie's shoulder, then enters the plane. Frenchie says, merde. Entourage is but for the stupid and the damned.
I've never seen Entourage, so I don't.
Neither have I.
I know the reference. I know the reference, but I mean, I know some of the folks in it, but I never cared to watch it. So,
yeah, I never watched any of the episodes either. We see Maeve training in her apartment in Seven Tower. She's training with a sword, and this is the first we've really seen her skill with a weapon. Mostly we've only seen her use her strength, right?
Yes. Yeah, the first time we saw her training with those fellas, she was just using her she has the armlets, kind of like Wonder Woman, to block and stuff. She didn't have a weapon fighting back or anything. She was just like defensive maneuvers.
Right.
It's cool to see her practice with the sword.
Yeah, she's got some pretty sick moves, too.
Yeah, she does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she does.
She hears a knock on her door. She answers to find Starlight. Starlight says, hi, can we talk? Maeve says no and moves to close the door. Starlight says, Maeve, please. Maeve lets her in. Starlight notices all the furniture has been moved from the middle of the room and says, I heard that you stopped training. Maeve says, yeah? You also hear that I wake up 6 days a week hungover, tits deep in some random pile? People think what I want them to. Starlight says, okay, listen, have you ever heard of something called BCL Red? Maeve says, you mean a weapon that can kill Homelander? If Butcher can find it? Starlight asks, you know? Now, I would like to point out they are in Seven Tower and they don't have Rock My Kiss or
what was it? License to Drive
playing in the background.
I know it. Dangerous territory, ladies.
Yeah. Maeve says, who do you think sent them down the rabbit hole? It's why I'm training, or haven't had a drink in 4 awful eating months. Wow. Maybe I can buy Butcher a second or two to get a good shot. At the very least, I'll get a couple of licks in. Starlight nods and says, okay. So there's you and me. Maybe we can find some others. Maeve says, right. Yeah. I'm sure you and Duluth's most mighty would really get the job done. This is my problem. I'm the one who was with that asshole. Starlight says, Maeve, you cannot do this alone. He'll kill you. Maeve looks away from her. After a moment, Starlight asks, you really care that little about yourself? Maeve looks at her and says, I got it coming. Then walks away, picking up her sword to get back to training. In Russia, we get some shots of the city with the song Junk by Jane Eyre playing in the background. There are some shots of some incredible graffiti about the Supes in the Seven. The first one is Homelander all hunched over with eyes bulging and sharp teeth. Instead of eagles on his epaulets, he has skulls. His knee pads also have skulls on them.
He kind of reminds me of some artwork by the Pander brothers. There are some comic artists, and they have some normal looking stuff, and they're fantastic. But they would also do some really trippy looking stuff. This also is real reminiscent of the guy Crumb. I forget Crumb's first name, but he's the guy that did the like the Keep On Trucking guy and some of the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers, some of those like real acid comics from the 60s. Very reminiscent of that. It's got that kind of real far out look to it. I love that.
Okay. There's another piece of graffiti with Homelander's face in black and white on the side of a building with red X's painted over his eyes. I like that one.
Yeah. All of those shots are nice.
Mm-hmm. Did you notice in the same shot, there's another building on the bottom right of the screen where there's a picture of the Deep. He's reclined and he's wearing the same uniform, but it doesn't have legs. So it's more like a one-piece bikini. He's laying on top of a bed of what appears to be lobster.
Wow.
And the front of his tunic is open much lower than usual, and it's already open pretty low. So very suggestive position by the Deep.
Strange, okay. Do they like the Deep over there? Is he popular?
I don't know.
It's an odd way.
It's a kind of a feminized version of him.
Sounds like
a little bit. In another shot, there are caricatures of the Supes' heads as skeletons. Below them, there is a horned succubus eating a man. Not sure if this is foreshadowing anything, because this same character, I see a poster of it later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I have a suspicion, but I don't know if it makes sense. I'll propose it when we get there.
Okay, cool. I can't wait.
Across the street, a building is painted with a trail of rats. There is a picture of a blonde hero with a rat hanging out of her mouth. I can't tell if it's Starlight, but I can't think of any other blonde heroes.
Yeah, I can't either.
On another building, Homelander is kissing Black Noir. Weird.
Yeah, very weird.
Yep. On yet another building, A-Train is chasing some vials of Compound V that have grown legs and are running from him. There's a line from an electrocardiogram machine showing his heartbeat as well. That was a pretty good one.
That's a good one. So everyone knows this, or at least the Russians do, at least.
Some Russian graffiti artist has all the info.
Apparently does.
Another wall has a bunch of people running from a hulking zombie Maeve in the background. It appears that she's tearing off a chunk of flesh in her teeth. The hand holding the flesh is bloody. As the shot pans, we see a zombie Homelander biting into someone wearing the garb that has the Russian double-headed eagle on it.
That's some nice stuff.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. The boys pull into an abandoned gas station. Inside, Huey is watching TV. On the TV, the gossip segment has a picture of Starlight and Huey. Then it appears like it's a picture. They rip Huey out of the picture, and then he's replaced by Homelander smiling. Then there's a cartoon picture of Huey in the bottom left of the screen, and shows up he's upset. It shows Huey watching this, and he doesn't enjoy it at all.
Right.
MM is looking at a poster of Homelander on the wall with lasers shooting out of his eyes. There are people running from him. There's some Russian words inside the laser beams. I don't know what they translate to. I couldn't figure out how to try to figure that out because I don't have a Cyrillic keyboard.
Right.
The TV show now has a picture of Starlight kissing Homelander. The picture tears itself in half, and there's a cartoon of baby Huey crying. Huey gets up, he's had enough, and he turns the TV off. But I think it's interesting that he's kind of world famous now.
Yes, he is. Is there a term for infamous that has nothing to do with bad or wicked or criminal? Or is he just viewed universally as a milquetoast? That's kind of what the impression I've got in this is. Like, wow, that's not very flattering. It's like, wow, tell us what you think.
Well, I mean, think of how everybody responds to Huey.
Oh, I know it. Even his own people. Even his own people respond.
And Russians in particular, they're tough.
Oh, yeah.
Think of how they would think of Huey.
Yeah.
Like they probably think of most Americans as milk toast. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
oh,
And
yeah.
because they
Yeah.
live a hard life.
They do.
Those
live a hard
winners,
life.
they really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Russians, buddy. Love them. They're kind of tough, though. They kind of scare me a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Butcher walks in and says, "Good news. Nina's had a word with her Kremlin piss boys, and she's located the lab." Huey says, "That's great. Where is it?" Butcher says, "Before she'll tell us that, we just got to do a little job for her. Ain't nothing. Just some local oligarch who got in her bad books." MM is shaking his head and laughing in the background. Frenchie says, "None. I don't do this anymore. Definitely not for Nina." Butcher says, "Well, that's a good job then, innit? Because you're not the one doing it." Butcher turns and points at Kimiko and says, "She is." Kimiko's brow furrows and she stands up. Butcher says, "Sorry, love, victim of your own success. Now, Nina's got you in. You'll be the wanker's pro girl for the night. You just get in there, give the a good noose, and get the out. Easy peasy." Frenchie says, "I'm begging you, no." Butcher says, "Look, Frenchie, it was this or Cherie's head. Hell, no good deed." Kimiko types into her phone, "I'm not your gun," and she shows it to Butcher. He says, "That's exactly what you are. In case you two forgot, I tell you what to do and you do it." I don't like the way he said that attitude from him.
No.
He could definitely handle it in a better way.
Well,
maybe talk to them first.
Especially the attitude to Frenchie in particular in front of Nina. And here, all of a sudden, Frenchie's just to do what I'm supposed to say. And he even said in another episode this season about, so, you got things to do. I tell you to do something, you do it. Frenchie was going to go do something to take, this is when he found out about her being in trouble. Yeah, to find out she was in trouble. And just his whole attitude. And I think the only thing keeping Kimiko from turning Butcher into paste is her dedication to Serge / Frenchie here. Because, I think she's looking at him for direction, and Serge bowing down is the same as her bowing down right now.
The thing that struck me so you point out that scene with Nina where Butcher's kind of talking down to him, the way he patted him like a dog on the head really stuck out to me.
That bothered me bad. Because it really drove the point home that I had not looked at it before. And when she talked about, "You took my pet from me," and he's doing that, it's like, I know part of it's show because Butcher has to present some kind of face. I get it to some extent, but these are his friends, man, supposed friends. You got to respect your people that work under you and risk everything a little bit more than that.
Yeah. In Seven Tower, we hear Supersonic's "License to Drive" playing loudly.
My favorite.
Supersonic says, "Oh, you're about to tell me something awful again, aren't you?" He's caught on. Starlight says, "Just listen to me. If it comes down to it..."
I love that remark from him. That is so funny and so sad. It's like...
Yeah, it's like every time he hears this song, he's associating it with some bad stuff's about to go down.
Awful stuff, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Starlight says, "Just listen to me. If it comes down to it, if we need to fight him for real, will you help me?" Supersonic looks scared. He says, "You serious?" Starlight says, "With how he's been acting lately?" He says, "He's invincible." She tells him there might be a way, okay? It's safer if you don't know how, but we need your help. There's me, there's Maeve. We probably need 4 or 5 more, and we have a shot. I'm so sorry, Alex. I didn't want to have to ask you this, but I don't know where else to go." He looks at her for a moment and says, "Okay, I'm in." She's surprised. She says, "You're in? Just like that? You don't even want to think about it?" He says, "I'm good." She says, "I don't understand. Why are you so nice to me?" He tells her, "Isn't it obvious? You're the only girl I've ever loved, Annie January." She begins to back away and says, "Oh, Alex, I'm sorry. I know. It's just me and Huey." He says, "I'm with you. Get over yourself. You really think my grandmother was going to let me marry the whitest girl in all of white?" Love it.
Oh, yeah, she does make me look not white at all. That's how white she is, yes.
She says, "You asshole." He says, "Yes, that's what I am. Listen to me. Since you moved to New York, you've gotten tough as the Annie I knew, she saw the good in people. I'm going to help you because it's the right thing to do. That's all." I was worried at first that they were going to go down that love triangle road, but was glad that they didn't. And I really like this character. He seems really cool so far.
And on initial viewing, like I told you last episode, I expressed distrust of Supersonic, and it was him revealing his drug addiction. Nothing to do with the drug addict part, mind you. I've been there, I've done that. But what I'm saying is that he's famous. And by being a famous drug addict, the problem is I assumed that someone has something over this fella's head. Why I was not trusting him. I didn't flesh that out enough, and I should have been more because he does earn my trust here. Unfortunately, it's the hard way. We'll cover that later, but I did not trust him. And did you notice the zipper on the back of his costume?
No, I did not.
So the Supes can't even dress themselves unless they got a significant other or I guess their personal aide de camp to there to kind of zip them up at the top. You know, can you hit the top there, dude? It's like your wife, you know.
What is it with the zippers on women's dresses? They like are always so hard to get them to work. You know, they're not robust zippers. They're very delicate. So I'm always worried I'm going to destroy the garment in the process of trying to zip whatever.
I don't get it, dude. And it's usually not cheap stuff either. It's like it's cheap stuff. It's expensive stuff with a cheap zipper. It's like, dude, come on. It's like put a good zipper on that thing. That's an expensive item. Yeah. Come on. Hook it up with one of them. Like
now, you could design in a lanyard of sorts where you could self zip, right?
Dude, wait, you need to keep that off the air. That needs to be something we need to come up with. The horse frog zipper. the horse frog zipper assist.
The self-zipping lanyard.
Yes.
Enable yourself to
no longer rely on that significant other. You're no longer at the mercy of have someone zip you up at the end. You can do it yourself. Who needs anybody? We need no one now. You can zip yourself. Is that why we've been getting married all these years? Is so we can zip things up in the back?
Oh man, you're shots fired.
I'm sorry. I've been happily married, so I'm just joking. You know, I'm just joking. So,
oh man, interesting idea. All right. In the command room for the Seven, Homelander says, "Welcome aboard, Supersonic. We're all so pleased to have you here, especially your former lover, Starlight." Starlight gets a look on her face.
He's on fire tonight, isn't he?
Yeah.
Homelander, dude, it's like he's been on fire this episode. And I've loved seeing him be just really weird and out there. You're such a light sleeper. You're like, oh my gosh, this guy's out of his ever-loving mind, but he's loving it. It's like he loves being out of his mind now. I'm like, okay.
When he's self-actualized, it's like a part of him it has been awakened, because last season he was almost insufferable with the weakness. Yes. I didn't like seeing him like that. I don't particularly like him as a character, right? In terms of liking his personality, right. But when he's acting the way he's acting this season, he's really compelling to me because he's unpredictable. He's confident. You don't know what's going to happen.
You know, this is why I've mentioned the Lord Vader moments. And the Lord Vader moments, I think you understand what I mean by that. Not just the evilness, but the willingness to kill your own people just to make some kind of point. Thrawn would not do this. Vader does. So he's more like Vader in that fact that his petulance could cost someone their life. It has.
Yeah,
but he is more in control this season, and I've enjoyed seeing it.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed. I'm like you. I've enjoyed the self-actualized version of Homelander. Is quite amusing and quite dangerous. I like it.
Yeah, we'll see how it can go bad. I guess I'm curious where it goes.
I know.
We'll see. Yeah. Homelander is still speaking. He says, "So in your honor," he's addressing Supersonic. He says, "Got a little surprise." Homelander motions to the catering staff, and they put taco bowls in front of everyone. He says, seriously, we have the best taco bowls right here in the building. Should make you feel right at home, pal. Bienvenidos, muchacho. Supersonic says, I don't really speak Spanish, sir.
Did he give him a thumbs up at this point?
I think probably he did.
He did, like, all right, far out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like the dude. I'm like, it's the 15th already. It's like, all right, far out. So if you can like slip the check under the door. Oh yeah, right on. It's
the Deep with a mouthful of food says, "This is muy delicioso." Black Noir has a taco bowl sitting next to him, but he's drawing a picture of a beaver on a piece of paper.
Oh my gosh, I feel bad after what we know about Noir now. After that flashback episode.
What about
do you? I don't know. It's like is he reduced to that mentally, but he's still. That's why he's dadgum dangerous. Is like when he gets in action mode, he's just focused, but when he's not, he's just a kid. Is he like a child?
Maybe.
Because remember the butcher, we brought up the butcher thing and this. It's like these are very childish behaviors.
Yeah, the butcher thing was when he scrawled Butcher's name on a piece of paper, and it looked very childlike, right? Where he wrote over it multiple
like he'd been
times
writing for
with
hours.
a marker.
Yes.
Yeah, like a kindergartner writing or a first grader. Yeah.
Now his artwork is very nice here for cartoon beavers.
Probably better than I could draw. I thought it was a rat originally. Then I saw the tail, and I was like, "Oh, that's a beaver." Yeah,
so it's very cartoon and it's well done, but it's kind of childish, I guess. And I don't know if this is just because we don't know anything between there and here. What happened in Nicaragua and here? So it's like, we don't know what's been going on in that guy's head, if anything.
Is this the first time we've seen him this season after waking up from his coma?
They keep I think they referenced him, and we might have seen him in passing, but this is the first time that we've actually that we focused on him that I recall.
I think that's the first time I've seen him this season.
You're right. I think you're right. I think it is the first time we've seen him.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, it was a hard recovery for that fellow. Been the nut allergy dude. Apparently he was in a coma. Is it the same Black Noir? That's what I don't know.
Well, and why else would he be drawing that way?
Yeah, it's got to be the same guy. It's all the same guy, man.
Yeah,
I'm convinced of that now.
Well, why would on their website would it say variable heights, variable weights?
See, I don't know that either.
They don't put that on there for no reason. Everybody else had a distinctive height and weight. And for Black Noir on the Amazon Prime website for the show, when you go to play it, it says variable height, variable weight. You wouldn't do that unless you're sending a message that something is changing about him.
Well, now this in reference to something I have hinted at and alluded to for many times, that in the comic that there is a certain person that Black Noir is and who he is not in the television show. But it doesn't mean that in the in-between, maybe, do you think that while he was in a coma, let's say, do you think maybe Homelander or somebody played him?
I think somebody's pretending to be him sometimes.
That's okay. That's got to be it. I mean, that's the only reason I can come up with the variants while he's out of commission due to whatever dark ops he's been doing, because probably I'm sure he winds up in the hospital quite a bit after his missions, and probably recovers for a while in the back to tanks. And so he's got to recover for a while, and so maybe in the interim, so we don't think that we're missing Black Noir. Maybe when he goes into these comas, maybe he goes into what looks like brain death, and he comes out of it and he's okay. Maybe that's just how he recovers. I don't know. But while he's in recovery, maybe somebody else is playing him.
Okay.
So
possible.
That's the only thing I got.
Homelander says, okay, meeting is over and I need the room. So away we go. Now, this whole scene was another Trump reference that I noticed in the episode. Remember when he had the taco bowl on Cinco de Mayo and he said the best taco bowls were in the Trump Tower?
I do not.
Okay, this was during the campaign for running for election 2016.
Okay. And I was talking about cutting my cable, and it would have been 2016. It was after the election. I got so sick of that stuff. I just turned it. I cut the cable.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty funny though, because it's like, what are you thinking, man? Like, it's in what world does this make sense?
The greatest bit of comedy I've ever seen in my life. I remember exactly election night because I was at a band practice on election night, and then I had some.
Which election?
The Trump election, where he won, him and Hillary.
Okay,
and so I went to the hospital because I got an earbud stuck in my ear. It went over inside of my ear canal.
Oh.
So I go in the hospital, and these guys take a whole 2 seconds to stick a pair of hemos in there, pop it open, and pop it out. And I get home to see the election results. And it was really quite funny to watch everyone saying, well, I never said he had no chance of winning. It was like, that was like the whole, everyone kept they were freaking out that he was winning. And that was really quite funny. But, I'm conservative, so I lean his direction anyhow. But that was a funny election cycle. But I got rid of cable after that because I just couldn't take it anymore. When I listened to, I used to listen to a lot of talk radio and be involved in political stuff listening. And all it does is raise your blood pressure. And I can't really affect any of it. So I quit listening. I felt a lot better since I quit paying attention to that stuff. So,
yeah, I've been reading Marcus Aurelius Meditations. Okay. He's a Stoic.
Yeah.
And his viewpoint on life's kind of interesting. It's almost nihilistic in a way where it's like the universe is this way. So why would you be bothered to, like, if nature acts this way, like, do you fault a rock for being a rock, or an axe for being an axe, and being used for the wrong purpose, or this, that, or the other, right? It's like a lot of it's if people wrong you, don't dwell on it.
Yeah, move along. I'm surprised that people always act surprised that people act badly. It's like, when people act badly all the time, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I'm surprised. I'm like, are you seriously surprised by that?
Yeah,
we have a lot of naive people, I think, because they've been very sheltered. I've been very naive, but I'm pretty awake now, but it took me a little bit longer to wake up. So, but
part of that's life experience, I guess.
Part of it's just life experience. I think a lot of it, the school of hard knocks, shall we say?
It's been a tough book to get through because of the way it's written, but there's been some pretty good gems in there.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I know a little bit about him just because I listen to a lot of Christian apologists, and they bring up Marcus Aurelius quite a bit because he being a famous, one of the few known philosophers. I mean, because one of the ancients. There's not a lot of ancient texts surviving. Mm-hmm. Of it, and I know about him just by comparison standards, but like the volume of ancient text copies we have the Bible versus ancient texts of other people, kind of thing, so I'm aware of certain things but I don't know a whole lot about Aurelius. I just knew he was a Stoic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I do have a lot of outlook like that a lot of times. Like, why do you I never understand why people fuss so much over things, because things are just what they are. And if you haven't figured that out by now, it's like you're in for a long, miserable life.
Yeah. A lot of it's just retreating into and like centering yourself in your mind, and then you can have that refuge there where nothing can bother you. So it's like the fortress of your mind, right? Yeah. And then you could just kind of withdraw to that if things outside of that are tumultuous or whatever, you know. And it's kind of, he just kind of goes through examples of, if this is this way, why would you respond this way when you know this and this about the universe, and just kind of logically steps through why you shouldn't be upset in many different scenarios. Right.
It just doesn't pay out. It's not worth being upset about, because it's a bunch of wasted time you don't get back being upset over stuff.
Homelander has tried to dismiss everybody from this meeting, and A-Train says, actually, Homelander, I've got something. Homelander huffs and says, A-Train, by all means, floor is yours. A-Train says, I wanted to talk about Blue Hawk. Ashley rolls her eyes. Homelander asks, Blue Hawk? And looks at Ashley. She says, out of Trenton. Homelander says, okay, what? A-Train says, he's been over patrolling black neighborhoods. It's a problem. Starlight says, that's terrible. A-Train says, thank you, Starlight. It is. I thought, since we got some rebuilding to do in that demo, maybe we could bench him for a while. Could be a 6-7 point bump with African Americans, at least. Cassandra, who's in the room, sends the Deep a text message. He looks at his phone, then looks at Cassandra and mouths, now. She's giving him crazy eyes and mouths something at him. I couldn't make it out. It was almost like just do it or something like that.
I think that's kind of what it is, I think.
What is she doing in there?
I don't know. She's obviously the brains of that couple, though.
Yeah,
which ain't saying much. I mean, she surprised me with her initiative, because I think that she's the reason why Timothy got 8.
Are you serious? You think she gave Homelander that idea?
I do.
A woman scorned?
I don't know. Possibly.
I don't think she picked up on that, man. You think so? She thinks you're jealous of the octopus?
Well, he did mention that she did have more arms than she had.
Oh, man.
So I don't know. I mean,
I don't know if she put that together.
I hope she didn't, but I think she's playing a different game than we realize she's playing. She's playing deeper than we realize, I think.
Was that
Sorry,
intended?
that was not intended. That was actually very unintentional.
She's going deeper.
Yes. Oh, my word. Speaking of deeper, there is some kind of deeper and deeper Audible podcast. I haven't checked it out, but I don't belong to Audible anymore. I just canceled my subscription. But I nothing negative against them. I just wasn't using many credits, so I just canceled my subscriptions, because you know how they'll give you a deal every now and then, and you get like $50-$60 off for you take it because it's 12 credits for like $100 or $70 or something like that. I did one of those deals with them. So I had it for a year because it was a great deal, and I canceled it. So
Okay. The only time I had that subscription active was when I was waiting for the Malazan series. So like I basically just was a subscriber, and every month when I got my credit, I would just get the next book, and so until I had them all, then I just canceled it. So.
And I don't know if I ever told you, but the Malazan universe, that's the first digital book I ever bought. It's the first thing I ever read because you turned me on to it. I went out and got $100 gift card and bought them all at once. That's the first thing I ever bought on Amazon.
I started reading it in paperbacks. I was getting them all at half price books because when I started reading it, I think he had the first 9 books released. And then in the midst of that, I got a Kindle. So then I started buying them digitally after that. I think round 2, I bought them digitally.
And I've done
the second read through is I think ultimately because I had all of them purchased in paperback originally that I bought the first read through. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. See, I didn't. That was the beginning of my read through, and I was like, I fell in love with the Malazan universe and digital reading at the exact same time. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing altogether.
Mm-hmm. So Cassandra texts the Deep, and she gets him to act. He does as he's told. He says, "Wait, you want to bench him? Don't we need more superheroes, not less? I mean, you share a lot of the same base as Blue Hawk. Can you really afford to look soft on crime?" Cassandra is mouthing this as he's saying it. So there's why she needs to be there. She's his speechwriter, and I guess he needs her there to look like he has a brain,
so he can react. Because I love it.
Mm-hmm. Homelander is surprised. He says, "That's actually correct, Deep. Good job." He says, "There's your answer. So bad luck, A-Train, huh? Okay, I do need the room. Out."
And I just love how Homelander was so genuinely surprised. It's like, that's actually correct. It's like, what, you're actually correct.
Yeah.
You've never been correct since I've known you. It's like, wow. It's
what?
And again, I'm curious about Cassandra, especially again in relation to the Timothy being alive scene. And Timothy, for people who have forgotten, is the octopus that the Deep ate alive in the last episode. I think. Yes, I think it was episode 3. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was episode 3. As everyone's walking out, Ashley receives a text message and mouths. Maeve pats A-Train on the shoulder as she walks out. After everyone's left, Ashley is the only one remaining. She is slowly approaching Homelander, who is looking out the window. He says, "What?" Ashley says, "Victoria Newman is doing a press conference tonight." He says, "So?" She says, "It's about you." He asks, "You're just finding out about it now?" She tries to minimize the situation, saying, "I'm sure it's a nothing burger," and nervously chuckles. Homelander says, "Hey, come here for a second. Is your idiot brain getting by stupid?" She doesn't respond. He prods her, saying, "It's not rhetorical. Answer me." She bravely says, "No, my idiot brain is not getting by stupid, sir." He says, "Well, then go and do your only job and find out what the is going on, Ashley." She says, "Yes, sir." I do need to give her a little credit here. The way she bravely says that, she doesn't act scared. She just owns up to it. She says, "Okay."
I agree.
Kind of commendable the way she was acting there.
We'll give her props where she's due.
Yeah. Out in the hallway, Supersonic is speaking with the Deep. They're standing in front of a poster of a Viva Glam magazine cover with Black Noir and Homelander on it. I didn't know this was a real magazine. It is. It's a beauty, fashion, and travel magazine. It seems to be, they have a website. It seems to be centered on women. So that's confusing to me why Black Noir and Homelander are on the cover of a beauty and fashion magazine.
Black Noir as ever. Why is he anywhere in anything? We can't answer that question. I'm always intrigued. Maybe he's a fantastic makeup artist. I'm assuming that whatever he sets his mind to, he's pretty good, other than writing. But I don't know. I really got no idea.
Black Noir's tips for applying eyeliner.
And especially because Black Noir doesn't identify as anything. I mean, I guess he's a non-threatening to any. I got no idea why he would be anywhere. Black Noir is one that scares me the most.
Well, after seeing his mental condition after that attack in Nicaragua, I'm less. That whole thing stole the mystique of him from me. That whole scenario down in the flashback in Nicaragua. He was as you used to say, he was an enigma wrapped in a riddle.
Yes, smothered in secret sauce.
And now he's just
I said smothered in secret sauce.
kind of.
Now the secret sauce is gone. I guess it's just a riddle wrapped in an enigma. But I don't know. Like I said, because because of what I know of the comic is so weird, and it goes, and like I said, it's so contrary to what I know is going on. And I don't really know that much about what I'm talking about either.
Oh, that reminds me. I meant to ask you, was Ashley in the comics?
Not from what I saw. But we never covered the 7. We never got into Edgar where I was. You only got into the 7 was specifically just the soups. It wasn't like people behind the scenes of the soups. Not that I didn't see publicists and CEOs and execs in the comic books. But again, I probably only got about 7 or 8 episodes.
So they fleshed all this out for the show.
A lot of this is, I mean, because it's something that even happens later on in here. Our favorite cameo coming up later is from the comic book, but they've done something and made him different from the comic book. I'll point this out because it's quite funny.
Okay. A-Train aggressively walks up and says, "Deep, who asked?" Then he sees Supersonic's there. He says, "Excuse me." Supersonic begins to walk away and A-Train continues, "Who asked you back there? Who the asked you for your opinion?" The Deep says, "I am a member of this team." A-Train says, "Please. Homelander's a great man, but the way you kiss his is gross."
I love how he also toes that line. "You're a great man, sir." We have to make sure and say that.
Mm-hmm. He said it because they're right out in the hallway outside. Homelander's going to hear this whole conversation probably. The Deep says, "Hey, man, look, I get it, okay? This is tough. You know, me handpicked by Homelander to come back and you on your way out again, and a rebrand. Oh, this late in the game? Ouch. The new A-Train. How'd that work out for Eagle the Archer when he became Eagle the Rapper? Oh, that's right. It didn't. It's just sad, man." Now, this is after Eagle the Rapper had that leaked video where he hunted and mounted his partner.
He was toxic to the church. I'm sorry. What was it? He was a toxic personality.
You're a toxic personality.
Yeah, Eagle, I cannot be with you.
Yeah. A-Train says, "You're like if Ashton Kutcher a clownfish. You're a joke, and you're so dumb you don't even know it." The Deep lunges forward and whispers in A-Train's ear. He says, "Oh, yeah? Well, how about I tell Homelander who really leaked all that on Stormfront?" A-Train doesn't miss a beat, saying, "How about I tell him you fished the Flight 37 video out of the Atlantic and gave it to Maeve?" The Deep takes a step back and pushes A-Train aggressively, saying, "What? Come on, run at me, bro. I forgot. Your legs don't work." A-Train punches the Deep in the gills, causing him to buckle over in pain. Now, that is quite the weakness. People get hit there in the ribs all the time in the fight, or like in the stomach area. And the way he goes down like that, he can't be much value in a fight unless he's got some type of armor there to protect that stuff.
That's, I hadn't thought about that. That's, because we haven't seen him. We've not seen the Deep fight. First time you've ever seen him really do anything. I mean, he teamed up with Starlight, but I mean, those were against normal people.
He punched somebody one time.
Is that all that we've ever seen him do is one punch?
One punch.
So it's actually, but it's seeing him get hit by someone who could hit hard too. I'm assuming A-Train could hit pretty hard, but that would be a severe weakness. But he noticed how hard he hits back though. Mm-hmm. I think he hits the Deep back pretty hard.
Yeah, right here. The Deep loudly says, "Gil punch me?" A-Train says, "Yeah." The Deep yells, "Mother," and tackles A-Train, knocking him back into the wall and crushing the panel. To your point of how hard he's going to hit him, right? This is like I think they have stone on the walls here.
He punches
right?
it through that.
It's a pretty serious hit. Yeah. They are both left groaning and gasping on the ground.
If he knocked himself out by hitting somebody so hard, that's also useless. It's great that you can hit hard, but not if you knock yourself out by hitting somebody hard.
I think he was still
winded from the Gil punch.
Yeah, the Gil. I mean, I imagine it's as bad as getting kicked in the balls.
That's kind of what I'm having to imagine too.
That's how I'm interpreting the pain that he's in,
and that would be especially when his gills are so.
So it takes a while to recover from that.
So him striking back, I'm kind of impressed. I'm like, I'm not impressed. I'm sorry, this is the Deep, but it's funny to see these two guys go at it. I don't know why I like this.
Mm-hmm. Homelander slowly walks up and says, "Boys, boys, boys." He holds out a hand for the Deep and helps him up. He then says, A-Train, just stay there and rest those useless legs.
Wow.
Homelander and the Deep walk off. The Deep turns around and grins at A-Train, then makes a motion with his hand mimicking a BJ. A-Train goes into a rage, and Supersonic runs up and grabs him, saying, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. A-Train yells, get off of me. Supersonic says, you do not want to do that. Take it easy. Calm down, all right? Take it easy, man. They walk up to the elevators. Someone gets out, and A-Train tells them to off. Inside the elevator, A-Train says, him, home. Supersonic says, stop. What if he hears you? A-Train takes a deep breath and lets it out. He shakes his head and says, I'm supposed to take from the Deep? The Deep? Homelander's going to back him over me? After everything that I've done for that man, I hit one little speed bump. Now I'm garbage. Supersonic listens to this. Then he walks over to stand next to A-Train. He asks, what if we could do something about it? A-Train asks, what do you have in mind?
You know, that's a bad mistake because I never trusted A-Train. You can't. He killed Huey's girlfriend the first 5 minutes of the first episode and has zero remorse over it. So you can't trust A-Train. But you can only really trust Starlight and maybe Maeve after she's been guilted by Starlight into helping. But, you know, Maeve's been coming around, though. We know that we've already seen this episode, how she's been coming around. She's just hiding the fact that she's coming around. So Homelander's not, you know, so that's a secret attack.
Yeah.
I get it.
She's still a little disengaged, though. Every time Starlight tries to talk to her to get her more involved, Maeve kind of just backs off.
Yeah, she does. I'm ready for Maeve to be more committed. I mean, she's acting like she's acting committed,
same.
but I want to see her committed to like, okay, look, give up this guilt and y'all act together. You know, y'all act together and work together.
Right.
They are working together, but they're working separately together. Does that make sense? They're not working together.
Yes, they're kind of on different paths.
Yes.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah. Okay. I got you. Huey is watching Russian TV again, and again they're making fun of Huey getting dumped for Homelander by Starlight. He sighs and looks down at his cast. MM is speaking with Butcher. He says, "Butcher, what the is wrong with you, man?" Butcher says, "I'm sure you're going to tell me." MM says, "That you pulled with Ryan, and now this cold-hearted you said to Kamiko. How could anybody be such a complete asshole?" Butcher says, "Practice." MM says, "You knocked on my doorstep, mother, and I respect the chain of command. But this, I'm not going to tolerate your bullshit anymore, man." Butcher asks, "Do you remember when we met?" MM says, "Hard to forget." Butcher says, "Me and the Colonel, we had our pick of officers, some real haircuts. Do you ever wonder why we picked some grunt Marine stuck in the brig?" MM says, "Let's see. I knocked out my racist CO, sent him to the ICU with one punch, so you knew I was strong. And you read my file, so you knew I hated Vought." Butcher says, "Yeah, it weren't none of them. I mean, they didn't hurt, mind, but no. We spoke to the blokes that you went through basic with, and to the man, they said that you were the one that held the platoon together, a natural-born leader." MM says, "You never told me that." Butcher says, "Mate, I'm under no illusions about who I am. And that's why we brought you in. Because no matter how hard I got to be, you're here to look after the boys. Now, if I thought to do that, I can't be a complete asshole, can I? Just mostly one." That was a pretty good speech.
It's a good speech
From Butcher there.
I like that it actually reveals something about him.
Yeah, he knows. He knows what he has to be. Yeah. And then the fact that MM's there to hold it all together. Yeah, it's good.
Good stuff. I like that reveal.
Frenchie and Kamiko pull up to a mansion in a van. Kamiko gets out of the van and Poison by Belle Biv DeVoe starts playing. She's wearing a sparkly silver dress and she has these shiny silver heels. As she's walking, she stumbles a bit, kind of loses it with one of her feet, kind of the ankle.
Yes.
Can't handle it.
Those are some tall heels.
They are. I want to say like 3 or 4 inch heels. Yeah.
Yeah.
The music stops. She recovers, then begins walking again. The music continues.
I love it.
Well done.
Yeah.
The guard at the front door says, "Irina, yes, you're late." She simply gives him an innocent smile and he says, "Come on." The guard lets her into the oligarch's bedroom. A Russian cover of "I Will Survive" is playing.
I don't know if I'd ever told you this, but how I became friends with Scott was he was singing that in the front checkout at Fry's.
Sounds about right.
Sounds about right, doesn't it? And I mean, this guy, and he, and it wasn't just like mildly singing; he was belting it out for the whole of the front checkout. There was no customers, and I don't know. Somebody said something to him, and he took off, and I was like, oh, it's like I just fell in love with that dude right then and there. He was great. He's too funny.
Didn't he do theater in high school?
And that wouldn't surprise me. But I knew he wrote. He was not a bad writer from what little bit of stuff he showed me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would he I don't know if he ever was. He never told me that. But when you say it, he reeks of it for sure.
I think he was. I think we talked about that one time.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's every time I think about that song, I think about him, dude, and it just makes me laugh. It just always makes me laugh. It never fails, man.
Yeah. Did he do it in Russian though?
No, he did not. I would have been more impressed because we had a couple of Russian girls that worked there. You remember those gals?
I bet if we asked him to, he'd probably be able to do it.
Oh yeah, and he would proudly belt that out for you. I love it. Love it.
When they enter this room, there are a number of scantily clad women in the room already. They're snorting coke. The oligarch is in a robe and he only has underwear on underneath that. He says, "Ladies, and now for the most delicious part. These are contraband." He opens the doors to a large cabinet holding a large number of feminine pleasure utensils, what we shall call them.
Or marital aid. The old school. It's marital aid, I believe. Nicely worded, though. I love it. I love it.
Now, they are themed. The first one has
the set. It's like the Funko Pop. It's like,
oh man, don't make that comparison. All right. The first one has the phallus painted in the colors of the American flag. The head has the stars and the shaft has the stripes.
Wow.
He says, "Homelander's Star Spangled Banger." Then we see a green one with a dolphin about mid-shaft. He says, "The Deep Flounder Pounder." To the left of this, we see a Maeve-themed utensil. To the right, we see a clear one. I assume it's translucent themed.
Maybe.
We see a dark rubber-looking one. The black noir helmet is on the head. His body pads make up the shaft. And the oligarch says, "Black Noir's Silent Screamer." And on the left of this one, there is a much longer one. Maybe A-Train's is my guess. It has his color scheme.
Oh, no.
It's easily over a foot long. The man says, "Choose." He then picks up the Starlight model and says, come on," to this one lady. He walks away with this woman and then says, "Take off your dress." After a moment, he says, "On your hands and knees, and your friend will." As soon as he says this, the head of the Black Noir Silent Screamer bursts through his mouth like an alien chest burster. The woman's face that he's talking to is covered in blood, and we begin to hear screams around the room. We get this really cool shot where Kamiko pulls the screamer out of his head and we can see her through the hole. Then the body starts to fall and we can see that she gets into a combat stance and she fully comes into view as his body falls. I thought the scene was really well done.
Nice. This whole scene is great, dude.
She kicks off her high heels and gets ready to defend against the armed guards. She dodges 2 shots and closes the distance to the shooter. She hits him twice. Once across the face from one side, then backhands him from the other side, then lodges the screamer in his eye, killing him. The other guard lands a shot in her side. She uses the dead body of the first guard to block the remaining shots and closes with the next guard. She knocks his gun out of his hand. He pulls a knife, and she reaches into the cabinet and grabs the Maeve-themed utensil. After a flurry of blows, he uses the knife to sever the head of the utensil that Kamiko's holding. She looks at it in disappointment and then throws it at him. She then grabs the translucent and deep-themed utensils and dual wields them, landing a flurry of blows. The Flounder Pounder manages to pack quite the punch. The translucent utensil shatters, and she climbs the guard's body and sits on his shoulders and stabs him in the chest with the remains of the translucent utensil. The guard that led her into the mansion runs in from outside, and Kamiko grabs the Starlight utensil and throws it, stabbing him in the neck, killing him.
You have to be strong to throw something that is not designed to go there into someone's body, in your neck. You have to have a lot of strength to throw something like that, you know what I'm saying? And lodge it into your flesh. That's
with
amazing.
accuracy too, which is impressive. Yes. I wonder if she's been training.
She must be because she's all over. Because look at her little kung fu move. She's gotten that one move that we've talked about. That run up them real quick, wrap your legs around their neck, and do some flip flopping and throw them on the ground, kind of thing. It's the Black Widow that we've talked about. That I'm not sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I love how she's moved from being a feral fighter to being a real good trained fighter. She's real. Obviously, she's been training or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's been over a year, right?
Yeah.
So she had to be doing something the whole time.
Learned how to communicate well with Frenchie, and learn how to, and been training. Got to have something to do with that spare time.
We get a shot of the Starlight utensil flashing and vibrating as a pool of blood spreads under the guard's body. Kamiko is left panting. She's covered in blood. She sighs. We see her take a picture of the oligarch's body. As she's finishing up, someone shoots her in the head. It's the woman that the oligarch was speaking with before Kamiko killed him. Kamiko falls to the floor. After a moment, the wound heals and it pushes the bullet out, and she gets up. The women in the room all scream in fear, and Kamiko stands there and realizes how scary she looks.
I love so many of these other soups can take a bullet. Kamiko can heal from bullets and things like that, but her skin apparently is not super tough. She took a bullet like the rest of us, and it killed her until she came back.
Yeah. And the way this scene goes down with the women that are scared of her, Kamiko's trying to calm them down, acting like she's not much of a threat to them, but they're still terrified of her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that affects her heavily.
It does.
Victoria is nervously awaiting her speech. Mr. Edgar walks up and asks, "How do you feel?" She says, "Like throwing up." He says, "Just remember, he deserves this. Good luck, sport." He pats her on the shoulder. Victoria walks up to the podium. She begins delivering her speech. She says, "Good afternoon. Thank you all for being here. I'm Congresswoman Victoria Newman, the director of the Federal Bureau of Superhuman Affairs." Starlight, Supersonic, Maeve, and A-Train are in the command center watching the speech on a NNC breaking news segment. Actual breaking news this time.
Right.
Homelander walks in and asks what's going on. This startles Starlight. Homelander sees the broadcast and says, "Oh." Victoria says, "For the last year, the Bureau has been working with Vought International under one guiding principle. The most powerful among us are not above the law, including the most powerful man at the company. Homelander has bravely come forward as a whistleblower and provided evidence of crimes committed within Vought by CEO Stan Edgar." There are gasps of shock in the room where she is delivering the speech. She continues, "And in the coming days, the FBSA will be investigating charges of blackmail, perjury, and obstruction of justice against Mr. Edgar. Vought International must be held to the highest ethical and legal standards." Did you see this coming? It surprised the heck out of me.
Oh, I was absolutely surprised.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think this episode had a couple of these that really made me go, "What?" It was, there's a couple of them. You're like, "Wow." And this is not a show. I say that is, I don't think we've seen a lot of, these kind of
twists,
unseen surprise. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see too many twists like that. I was like, "What?" It was a nice surprise.
Yeah. But the closest thing was the confirmation that Stormfront was the twist, right? That she was old, that she was Liberty. That was a twist in season 2.
That was a twist. Yes.
Yeah. But I don't think season 1 had much of that, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. These kind of these backstabbing kind of things like this, that kind of twist.
Yeah, this is particularly disappointing because we kind of idolize Mr. Edgar so much.
Yes,
I mean, I don't know if idolize is the right word. We really respect his character in terms of how cool he is. Know, so
agreed.
Kind of,
I don't like it. I don't like it.
Mm-hmm. And then the ramifications of something like this are what is really troubling to me. We'll get there.
Yeah, this is a journey.
Yeah. In the command room for the 7, we see Homelander looking super smug. Maeve has tears in her eyes. She looks at Homelander and says, "What did you do?" He tells her, "The people are entitled to the truth about their heroes, something I should have done a long time ago. This is a superhero company, always has been, belongs to us, not him. So I set things straight, that's all." He turns to leave, then turns back around and says, "Oh, and anyone who's been hiding behind his little apron, that's over now, too. It's a new day, people. It's the dawn of the 7.
Oof.
After Homelander leaves, Maeve gives Starlight a look, and Supersonic gives A-Train a look. They all know they have to do something. Now, what a twist. I have to say, I like this Homelander more than the one that we saw last season for
Mhm.
sure. You know, and
Absolutely.
I cannot wait to see how bad this gets.
Oh, I know it. Is he building his Injustice League? I don't know what else to call it. What was it? I can't remember what it was called in that old. There was an old terrible Justice League television show, Super Friends.
Mm-hmm.
Was it? Oh my! Was it the League of it? Maybe it was the League of Injustice. I can't remember the bad guys who are there, but yeah. And, oh, that's too funny though.
So what's interesting is if he's building that, what would the Lex Luthor equivalent be? Because Lex Luthor in this context would be a good guy, and it wouldn't really be Butcher, would it? It would be some type of human maximalist.
Yes, but I would at the same time. I don't know if he would be a person that you would consider him super because his intellect might be enhanced by V.
Mm-hmm.
Do they need to be a soup, or just a straight?
No,
up?
Lex Luthor's not. He's a normal person.
That's true. He is a normal person. So yeah, I think
he's like a maximalist on just humans that are normal.
Yeah, he's
right.
Yeah.
No super abilities whatsoever.
Yeah, it's strangely enough, his intellect is actually superhuman, even though he's not technically a superhuman. His intellect is same thing. Him and Reed Richards, those kind of super intellects. I don't know if you'd actually rate them as such as like their superpower, but it's as in that RPG stand that I've used, Luthor has an intellect almost equivalent to Superman's strength, which is more deadly in my opinion.
Intellect?
Yes.
Yeah, because you get this kind of plans within plans type scenarios. Right? Yeah. 15 steps ahead.
Yeah. 12D chess. We talk about the 5D chess. It's like, something like Luthor's, man, that guy's playing like from, he's way ahead. So and what's funny, we could be, while this seasons are building, we could have someone out there that in the wings that's, being impacted that rises to be this, maybe Huey. Maybe he'll brain out on us. Who knows?
I don't know.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Reed Richards. Did you ever watch the latest Doctor Strange movie, the Sam Raimi one?
No, I need to. That's one I have been wanting to watch, that one and the new Spider-Man. Those are the two I have wanted to watch but have not seen yet.
Okay. I have said too much already.
Okay.
We need to talk whenever you watch that.
Well, I do know that there is talk that we're supposed to bring the Fantastic Four back.
Yeah, but I wanted to talk to you about something specific. So
okay, cool. Okay,
watch that movie. I mean, it's a Sam Raimi movie, so
it's Sam Raimi. I know that. I'm ashamed of myself.
I want to see your take on his vibe because it is 100% there. Like there's a specific. I'm not gonna say anything. Just I want to know when you were like, this is definitely a Sam Raimi movie. Like I want to know the moment you feel that.
Okay. Well, I know I'm going to feel it real quick because I've watched Sam since Evil Dead days, and the fact that he does some things with camera tricks that even in his normal films, and I say I'm air quoting normal, but you see certain things that are just very Sam Raimi. A personal fave of mine is A Simple Plan with Bill Paxton and Billy Bob Thornton, and the Found Money one. You've seen that one, right?
Actually, I don't think I have.
Okay, that's a really good one. It's a found money in a very small town in the winter, and what found money does. It's like all the other found money movies. I mean, if you watch Shallow Grave, I mean, how it turns people on each other. It's really good. It's fantastic. Billy Bob Thornton is Bill Paxton's brother in this movie, and there's a third friend, and they all find this money together. And it's very. If you haven't seen it, it's Sam Raimi. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Mr. Edgar walks up to Victoria and asks why. She says, all these years, you weren't protecting me. I was protecting you. I have to look out for Zoe. Mr. Edgar's guards escort him out. In Ashley's office, she is meeting with a faceless suit. She says, so, from now on, the talking points don't come from Suzanne. They come from me. I approve every single word of copy. Are we clear? He says, Crystal, ma'am. She says, it's like this script was written by a room full of chap-ass monkeys. Am I right? She begins laughing and says, it's so bad. He says, I wrote it, ma'am. She says, I'm sorry. Is your idiot brain getting by stupid? He doesn't respond. She says, no, that's not rhetorical. Answer me. He says, what if I said yes? She tells him, then I would have to punish you. He asks, how would you punish me? She pulls out Homelander's Star-Spangled Banger.
No.
He looks at it and says, my idiot brain is getting by stupid, ma'am.
That is too funny. Is that an insult to her at that point?
No, I mean, he seems into that. So
Yeah, he
I don't
does.
think so. This situation with her kind of taking control is exactly what I was worried about when I warned about the Mr. Edgar situation, because
Yes.
there was a specific wah where like we were talking and I was like, don't get your hopes up too much. And
Yeah.
this was kind of the spoiler that I heard. And I wasn't sure like how bad it was going to be. It's pretty bad, I guess.
Yeah.
And I really want to know who likes Ashley as a character.
Yeah.
There's got to be some people out there. And if there are people out there, I would really like to hear, why do you like her? contact@horsefrogproductions.com. Because, I mean, do you have to have characters like this in shows? Or are they trying to accomplish something with her?
I don't know. They might be trying to accomplish something with her.
Okay.
But one of the things is, from Homelander's point of view, she's a great CEO because he now controls everything through her.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's going to say it. She's going to do it. And please, good gracious, no, not the Star Spangled Banner, please. I did not. It's like, oh my goodness. But yeah, that's all I can think about, is that the only reason that she's a CEO is just because she is there to say yes to Homelander. But I'm curious, I don't think they're going to cover, the financial woes that we can get into, because I don't think that's going to, we don't, I can't imagine Homelander running this company very well. So the company's going to kind of run itself, I'm assuming.
Yeah, well, I don't think the board is gonna so Homelander doesn't have enough control over the board, I don't think, to like control who becomes the CEO. But Ashley is just gaining more and more power throughout these seasons. So we'll see what ends up happening. She's failing upwards.
Yeah, she is failing upwards. Yes. It's not uncommon, I guess, in some places.
Yeah. Frenchie and Kimiko return to the gas station hideout. Butcher asks, well, how'd you get on? Kimiko throws him the phone with the picture of the dead oligarch on it. Butcher looks at it and says, oh, Nina's going to love this. See? Told you. Easy peasy. Kimiko storms off. In another room, Kimiko has changed and she's laying upside down on a recliner chair. Frenchie comes in and lays down opposite her on a couch. She signs, I can't do this. He asks, Munker? She signs, those girls. Frenchie says, the girls who shot you, they were just scared. She signs, I know. I don't blame them. They were bought and sold, same as me. Butcher sold me. He doesn't treat any of us as people. Butcher, Shining Light, Little Nina, they're all the same. We only have each other. It's you and me. Now, on the wall behind her, not to detract from this scene, that's really important, we see the poster of that horned woman eating the man, and that's the same character we saw in the graffiti earlier that I mentioned. And I suspect this is foreshadowing a future character.
Okay. It could very well be.
Yeah, because I mean, there was some very prominent stuff in season 2 alluding to Payback, Soldier Boy coming back. To see the same character twice.
Yeah.
So she has horns and a demon tail. She's kind of like a succubus looking woman. Okay. Yeah. So I'm curious what's going on there.
I'm hopefully we'll see her.
After Kimiko tells him that it's just him and her, he struggles and says, you're right. Maybe it's time we leave. She signs, really? He says, really? She signs, when? He says, well, Butcher, he can lick my pull, but Huey and MM, they need us. So we do this job. And then where do you want to go? She signs, Marseille. He says, we go to Marseille. She jumps on him and gives him a hug. Nice to see them making a decision that points them to a better future,
I did too. And I got a little choked up on the fact when she said it's just you and me.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I like that. That reveals that they are just truly getting very close. I like it.
Yeah. Because realistically, she doesn't hang out with other people that much.
No, that's the only person that she can talk to, because he's the only one taking time that we know to learn her sign language.
Yeah. At home, Victoria is in her room and notices her patio door is open. Homelander is in her bathroom and says, hey. He holds up a tampon and says, heavy flow day? He chuckles and says, kidding. He closes the drawer and walks into the bedroom. He says, be honest. You thinking of popping my melon? Who knows? Give it a whirl. She asks, can we make this quick? It's been a long day. She's sassy, man. I'm really curious how her story plays out, because I kind of like her.
Dude, I like her too. I like her.
As horrific as her powers are, I
Yes,
do
they
like her.
are.
Yeah.
I liked her. Well, you know what? I liked her like I like Stormfront. She's a villainous person too, but she's at least charismatic and likable, even though she's villainous. And you're like me. We like villains with charisma. It's like
Yeah.
it's like I just want you to have some charisma, for goodness sake. I hate these real shallow villains. She's got some layers to her. I like it.
Yeah, and I guess we just don't know enough about her motivations yet.
Yeah. Well, I think you know what? I think we do. I think this episode will answer a bunch of her motivations. I think she's driven by the highest motivation of all. I think protection of her child is. She may be going around it in a weird way, but I think that's kind of primary in her mind.
Interesting. Yeah, you're probably right about that. He says it has. It can't have been easy shanking the old man like that. But if it's any consolation, he was ready to do exactly the same to you. He hands her a file. She takes it and asks, "What's this?" He says, "Just a little Oppo research that I borrowed from Edgar's office. How do you think I found out you were one of us?" She looks at it and says, "This isn't his. This is someone else's." Homelander says, "No, it's his. You're not his daughter. You're his weapon. It's what they do. They all do it. All of them. Look, the point is they have to do that to us. They have to, because they know deep down when they lie awake at night." She asks, "Do you have it or not?" He hands her a package and says, "As promised, original recipe, all 11 herbs and spices."
Nice.
That's a KFC reference, right?
Yes. Am I showing my age with that one? He's not much younger than me. So yeah, it's like all 11 herbs and spices. All right. It's good stuff.
She looks inside the package and seems relieved. He moves to leave and says, "Vicky, I'm glad you chose your own kind. That was smart." He leaves and we hear a sonic boom as he takes off.
Now that stuff that was from Edgar's office, he had that on her. I mean, I believe. I don't believe this is Homelander. Do you? I believe he found that in his office legitimate. Because I mean,
I don't think he's lying about that.
I don't think he is either. Because I mean, Edgar, no matter what he is, he's a manipulator.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I just want to make sure you're thinking the same thing I was. And also, were you just as surprised? That was the other kind of surprise for me. Was Homelander revealing that he now knows that she was the head popper.
Oh, yeah, this was a surprise because, you're right. Because to find out why she betrayed him, this is it, right? Yeah. Well, I guess during the speech, she did say Homelander came forward. So I guess it was kind of inferred there.
Well, Homelander, she must have reached out to Homelander. Because she was terrified, because she's so terrified of what he was going to do to Zoe was what I read from that situation with her and Mr. Edgar in her home, and why that's again, I feel that's her whole motivation is this fear of Homelander and what he might do to her and her daughter. Do you read that, or is it just me?
No, I think you're right about that, but I think he came to her.
You think he came to her?
I do.
How would he have come to her? Because she was, I mean, and I asked this question legitimately, but because she's terrified to go after him. And then when the idea comes forward that you're basically going to put me at risk, then I feel that she's kind of like, okay, I need to reach out. The only person that can do this would be Homelander. That's why I think it was her. That's why I think it's her reaching out to him and not the other way around. Does that make sense?
When I think of like order of operations here, because we got to reconcile everything. Homelander finds out that there is going to be a speech given about him. Okay. When Mr. Edgar is telling Victoria that she's going to have to betray Homelander, like at that time, Victoria is she's struggling with it because she doesn't want to upset Homelander, right?
Yes. Yeah, because that's what I think.
I think between that conversation and when she delivered the speech, Homelander went to her.
Oh, okay.
In between there. Okay. And he probably...
Well, no, he would have to go to her before the speech.
Yeah.
Because he was not surprised.
That's what I'm saying. But after Mr. Edgar talked to her, but before the speech. And what I don't know is when he knew that she was the head popper. He may have just gone to Mr. Edgar's office and snooped around in the middle of the day, but at some point he might have known beforehand that she was the head popper.
That's true. He could have.
Yeah. Homelander is kind of going around cleaning up house right now, right? And Mr. Edgar's a thorn in his side. So maybe he did know in advance and he was prepared for some shenanigans that Mr. Edgar was going to pull. So he's snooping around his office to see what information he can get on him. Maybe his leverage or something like that.
I hope so. I mean, I like where Homelander's going, but I still don't put him as quite that forward thinking yet, mind you. He's learning.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see. I guess that's the only, we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, definitely.
I like that we have different opinions, so that's cool.
Is it really that different though?
Well, it's just a matter of who went to who. The end result is still the same.
You think she went to him. I think, okay, yeah, I got you. Okay.
It's just a matter of who went to who, but the end result is still the same. It's just a matter of who went to who.
Yeah, well, in your case, out of her fear of betraying Homelander, she goes there to protect her daughter. Yeah. In my case, Homelander is doing it to out Edgar.
Right.
Because he knows that it's going to cause him a problem because they're going to try and reprimand him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I get it. I see both. I see both sides there.
It could be either.
No.
Yeah. Butcher is in the restroom of the gas station in Russia. He's preparing to shoot up V-24. He shoots up and his eyes start glowing. His cheekbones grow a little bit as well, which I thought was kind of weird. I hope that's temporary. Did you notice that?
I did not catch that.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if it's both cheekbones or a lump on one cheek just grows a little bit. Okay. It's weird. Yeah. Huey walks in and says, Butcher, can I, what are you doing? Butcher says, contingency, in case things go over tits at the lab. Huey says, I want to try some. I have to say, I don't like this drug-seeking behavior from Huey.
I don't either.
Butcher tells him, don't be daft. This is poison, Huey. A lad like you don't want no part of it. Huey says, what? You mean like a loser? Up? Butcher says, sooner or later, Homelander will find Ryan, okay? It's just a matter of time. I have to do this, all right? You don't. Huey says, Annie's in just as much danger. Homelander almost lasered me in half in front of her, and it was like I was back with every bully that I ever had, just taking it. And then she had to save me again. Butcher, please, please, please. Because right now I am so angry that I can't even breathe.
Now, I do actually understand anger like that. I have had something happen to me that I don't really want to discuss, but being powerless afterwards, the anger of being powerless in that situation was eating me up. But it's nothing to be ashamed of, and there was nothing, I was not ashamed. I was just mad, but he's got this same old, like I'm ashamed. What do you, man? He stepped up to Homelander, man. That required a lot of testicular fortitude to do something like that. Huey's, I don't like him I'm like you though. I don't like him seeking this drug for it either.
Yeah.
Because he's already got it. To me, he's already got enough moxie,
Butcher exhales and says, oh, Huey, it's dear. It's not power. It's punishment. You don't deserve none of it. Huey asks, what? And you do? Butcher doesn't answer and says, get ready to go. In 7 Tower, Mr. Edgar is standing and looking out the window from the command center. Homelander walks in. Mr. Edgar says, you do have a hell of a view from up here. I'll give you that. Homelander says, you should see it from space. Unbelievable. 80/60. Your entire life is imploding, and it's as if you're reading John Grisham. I heard about your temporary leave of absence, by the way. Those things do have a nasty habit of becoming permanent, though, don't they? Don't blame Vicky, you.
And what is meant by the 80/60 remark? Is that a blood pressure remark about how calm he is?
Originally, I assumed it was some kind of Q score or something like that, but blood pressure absolutely makes sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Mr. Edgar says, I don't. If there's one thing I taught her, it was to play all sides. She's more like me than I ever imagined. But I am curious. What did you give her?
Oh, there you go. I think you're right. I'm sorry. I think you answered my question about who approached whom. Do you think that what did you give her?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's, I think you're right. I think he approached her. And is it me, or does he look a little proud of her?
Super. And he's smiling when he's saying it, man.
That's what I thought. I thought he was too. I didn't know if it's because sometimes he has that little kind of one where it's a little bit of a half smile or he's smiling. It's kind of hard to tell. And I thought that was like, it's like he couldn't be more proud of her.
Yeah.
Was kind of the vibe I got. Okay, cool.
Yeah. He turned her into an animal.
Version of him.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what they wanted. Okay.
Homelander says, a little respect, Stan. Something you should have given me. Mr. Edgar says, what good would that do? Where would it even go but the bottomless, gaping pit of insecurity you call a soul? Jeez.
Wow. He's rough.
Homelander makes a noise, almost as if he's shivering, and laughs. He says, oh, God, you want to know something? I used to be intimidated by you. I did. And now I look at you, I have no idea why. Truly. You're not even pathetic. You're just nothing. Mr. Edgar says, then why are you still here, looking for my approval like I'm your daddy? And even if I were, what would there be to approve of? The company is yours. No one left to stand up to you. But I think you'll come to sorely regret that. Homelander says, and why is that? Mr. Edgar says, because there's no one left to cover for you either. Eventually, probably soon, the world will recognize you for the pitiful disappointment you are. You are not worthy of my respect. You are not a god. You are simply bad product. Mr. Edgar says all of this with no emotion displayed on his face and then walks out. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Homelander's left there stewing on his words. His face is twitching. And those words cut him deep, man.
Oh, and I like how at first he's so absolutely cool when Edgar starts digging into him. And then you're thinking, oh, nothing's going to bother him. But then Edgar says that. It's like, whoa. And it just, and we haven't seen the face twitch this season much.
Yeah.
Haven't seen him reduced to that craziness, It's like, uh-oh.
Victoria is at home with her daughter, Olivia. Olivia says, I'm scared. Victoria says, I know. When I was little, they did the same thing to me, and I'm all right. We have to, okay? Because you know what? It's going to make you so strong and safe forever, okay? Olivia says, okay. Victoria says, okay, turn around on your belly. Victoria preps the syringe with Compound V and says, just a pinch. She injects the Compound V into Olivia, and Olivia immediately begins crying out in pain.
Well, I thought she was going to give it to her in her spine right there because they break out that huge, that's a needle I could drink a Coke through. I mean, they break out, especially when they in movies and shows. We all hate needles, But when you see them break out, they always have to break out those. This is the future. We don't use needles like that unless you're trying to give one right in the heart. Brought to you by Coca-Cola. Not brought to you by Coca-Cola. Just kidding.
We can see Olivia's bones in her spine begin to shift and move. Victoria says, okay, come here. Okay, it's okay. She's comforting her. And she's comforting her as she goes through the most painful experience of her life. This was a really tough scene to watch, and I was trying to put myself in the headspace of an individual when they'd make a decision like this, to put their child through the most painful experience of their life. From everybody that's talked about this, they said they'd rather die than do it again. Right? Yeah. And the results aren't guaranteed. So this was a huge risk.
That was another big surprise from this episode. And to see how Victoria look really frightened, because she's been so calm and so cool, everything we've seen. And like I say, so for her to do this, she's got to be frightened. Maybe she's got the good stuff. Maybe that's the V that she knows isn't going to be a problem.
I don't think there's such a thing, man. Everybody reacts differently to it. Yeah,
that's true.
Blue, right?
It's the blue staff.
Okay, so here's my crazy theory, and this probably doesn't make much sense, but I'll throw it out there. Those posters of the character that we're seeing in Russia, or the poster and the graffiti, the one with the bones and the tail, the way Olivia's spine is shifting, I wonder if they're going to turn her into that character.
They could very well.
But theoretically, the character would already have to exist for the posters to be there. That's the part that doesn't make sense. But
yeah, because the Cribs and Countess folks, they were people that were already existent or extant, I guess is the. But yeah, so I'm curious. Maybe there is someone else, and maybe that would be the father of. Maybe she will become something like that. Maybe that's her father. You never know with all the.
It's definitely a female character on the graffiti.
Okay.
It's a succubus looking character.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm curious. Then maybe that's one of the Russian soups.
If there is one, yeah.
If there is one.
The boys arrive at the Russian facility. Says, that chick Nina didn't do us no favors. That ain't a lab. It's a military compound. Butcher says, Russian military compound. Be like storming a Baja Fresh. Says, Baja Fresh ain't shooting us with AK-47s on full auto, mother. Butcher is randomly clipping electrical connections at the electrical box outside of the Russian compound. Nice security there, guys.
Right.
Finally, after a couple of failed attempts, he takes the bolt cutters and begins bashing the breakers, causing them to short out. The boys move in. Subdues one guard and says, Red Dawn, mother.
I love that line.
Yeah, they use the guard's badge to get in, and then subdues another guard and says, Rocky 4, mother. I was cracking up, man. Oh, I love They arrive in a lab of some sort with some containment cells. Butcher says, come on, we ain't got much time. Says, any idea what this soup gun is supposed to look like? Butcher says, ain't the joy in the discovery, eh? Frenchie finds a cute hamster in a cell. He says, hey, there's something here. Look. Oh, hey, what does it say? Says his name is Jamie. Frenchie says, Jamie, hi, are you okay, Jamie? He knocks on the glass. Says, no, don't with it. Just leave him alone. Jamie runs around in the containment cell a bit. Now, this long-haired hamster reminded me of a pet that we used to have in California. We named him Hugh. Now, the apartments we used to live in, the janitor pulled him out of one of the vents and he gave him to us. Not the janitor, awesome. The maintenance guy. Okay. Yeah.
That is so funny.
So we named him Hugh. Yeah, like a ratty looking long hair, like almost like he had dreadlocks, but looked a lot like this one, a little bit more gray.
That's too funny. Yeah. The Hugh Beaumont experience. But I love that our hero is Huey, and you named the guy, and you named your hamster Hugh way years before. That's great.
It'd been better if it was named Jamie. Then it would have been
right. That would have been hilarious.
Frenchie says, "Oh, Jamie, who's a handsome petite little gerbil?" Says, "It's a hamster. My daughter went through 3 of them." All of a sudden, Jamie begins bouncing around in the cell. Says, "Oh, mother V'd up hamster." Jamie breaks the glass and a light turns red, sounding an alarm.
That is some thick glass too.
Yeah, and he's bouncing around in there hard, fast too.
And apparently, Jamie is from the comic books.
Mm-hmm.
Jamie is a non-suit, but he apparently shows up in a lot of the comics because he's Huey's hamster.
Okay.
That was retrieved from Blarney Cock. That's the soup that Huey punched through in the comics.
I see.
And so, so poor Jamie was trapped inside, Lemmy-Wink style.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah.
And survived
to be a beloved pet of Huey. And so they say that apparently you can see him a lot in the issues if you start looking.
Oh,
I guess
okay.
He's taking care of it. So I'm like, okay, cool. So Jamie's a cameo.
Okay, nice. Says, "I told you not to with him." Damn it. Butcher yells, "Look lively." Armed guards swarm them and a firefight ensues. Kamiko tackles one guard and breaks his neck. Frenchie and a guard end up in a Russian standoff.
I'm sorry, I just looked at this something in the bottom.
Jamie hovers in the air behind the guard. What is the first thing you thought of when you saw this?
I'm sorry, I'm laughing at your response. I should have thought of that. I was too busy laughing. Oh my gosh, I couldn't think of what it was, but you bring it, dude.
Yeah, so the first thing I thought of was Monty Python and the Holy Grail with the rabbit of Caer Banog. I mean, how could you think of anything else?
I don't know. I'm so sorry.
I mean, it looks just like that rabbit, dude.
Word.
It was like floating in the air.
Oh my goodness.
So Frenchie sees this.
Why is that still one of the greatest scenes ever? Is that rabbit gnawing those guys' heads off? Man, that's great.
Dude, I'll tell you what. My cousin had an uncle on her side. He worked at a ranch in California. He was taking care of the grounds, right? So he'd take care of the horses. They had a bunch of different animals out there, sheep, ponies. And
I think I know where you're going to go with this.
They had rabbits
story. Yes.
in a barn. And my brother and I were young when we went to visit them. And we're playing with the rabbits. And one of them, I had always heard prior to that rabbits didn't make any noise.
Right.
And we were playing with them, and one of them squeaked, and I about died because I thought it was like one of these killer rabbits or something. because it was squeaking. And
that's too funny.
Yeah, it terrified me.
I thought you were going to go dark, like, because my grandfather raised some rabbits one time when I was young, and it was just because he wanted to eat some rabbits. He hadn't had rabbit in a long time.
Oh, okay.
And so he raised some rabbits, and he went out with him one day. And it's like, "Here, hold this, William." I'm like, "Yes." It's like,
oh man,
takes an axe handle and just kill one of them.
Oh my gosh,
just mortified.
No, it wasn't like that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And I have another horrific story about rabbits and people, but I think I'll leave that for a later day.
Okay.
You want to hear about that? That's too nasty. I'll tell you off the air. Maybe.
All right.
Kyle Bannock. Sorry. Look at the fangs. Look at the bones. Look at the bones, man. Oh.
So Frenchie sees Jamie hovering in the air, and he looks at him in amazement. And the Russian guard turns around.
I'm so sorry. I need my nerd. My nerdgentia needs to be revoked for this episode. If I did not think about the rabbit in comparison to Jamie, I'm so sorry. I've lost my nerdgentia privileges this week.
Oh man,
just this week.
You're the founder. How are you gonna have them revoked?
That's exactly why. She's telling you why right now because I missed it.
Okay.
I missed the Kyle Bannock reference.
Yeah, so the guard sees Frenchie's look of amazement and he turns around. Jamie launches himself at the guard's eye and burrows into his head in a most gruesome fashion. It is not a quick burrowing. I mean, it takes him time to dig in there.
I know it.
Frenchie watches in horror and says, "Merci, Jamie."
Is Jamie super smart? Did he help him, or was he holding a grudge? And I don't even know if I want to know the answer to that. Oh my.
I got to tell you, I think he took to Frenchie when Frenchie was excited to see him, and he saved Frenchie here.
I think he saved Frenchie too. That's what it looks like. This is what you get by being nice to people. First off, he saved Kamiko. Then he saved Jamie.
It's a friendly little, what did he call him? A petite
little. Did he call him
handsome? He called him handsome. Yeah, a handsome petite little gerbil. Yeah. So I think that's what won him over right there.
Yeah. Jamie. All right. I hope we see more of Jamie too. I hope he shows back up.
Yeah, that'd be hilarious. Like some super weapon. Yeah.
Oh, well, there was always you remember the Thanos Ant-Man speculation on Endgame, remember?
No.
Was the idea that Ant-Man could burrow into him at micro speed and then punch out through him from the inside. Maybe Jamie will be the kryptonite for Homelander.
Oh. That's if he can't clench his cheeks well enough, right?
Right. Lenny Winks.
All right, moving on.
I also move along, Luke.
MM runs out of ammo and yells, "I'm out." The scene turns to slow motion as Butcher assesses his options. He looks at Huey and Huey nods. Butcher smiles and yells, "Oi, evening." Now, this scene is sick. The music is epic metal playing in the background. Butcher slowly walks as the guards are shooting at him, and he's impervious to the shots. He lasers one guard down, and Huey watches in amazement. MM has a look of horror on his face. Butcher lasers a second guard, then catches a third by the neck and breaks it. Huey sees a guard sneak up behind MM. He yells, "MM!" Then suddenly he teleports out of his clothes and lands directly in front of the guard. He punches the guard through the chest and yells, oh, I'm sorry. Huey rips his arm out of the man's chest. MM looks at the guard, then looks up at Huey.
It was the arm that was the broke arm.
Yes. Good catch. Yeah. Now, MM is pissed.
Yeah.
There is a long moment of silence. Kamiko covers her eyes. Huey is looking at his gore-covered hand and begins chuckling softly. Butcher looks at him in disappointment. MM says, "Your dick's out." Huey realizes he's naked. Now the scene is fast-forwarded a bit and Huey is dressed again. He picks up his cast and is looking at it. There's a huge crack running down it. He's smiling. I don't like his reaction. I'm not seeing good signs from him, and he wants this too bad.
I agree.
Also, teleportation is a trash power, in my opinion. It would be one thing if it was similar to the power in Jumper, if you're familiar with that, or what Nightcrawler has. But to turn naked each time,
The naked one would be a drawback, and it may be, in the role-playing game I played, getting powers cheaper was the name of the game, and sometimes that's called a drawback, and that's how you get a power. Is you get a good power cheaper by, it's like, well, yeah, but you always teleport out of your clothes.
Uh-huh.
Or something like this. But the other thing is that Now, maybe because he didn't know it, but he did show his inner Eddie, pardon the gunslinger reference there, but fighting naked. When you see dudes naked fighting, do you always think of that? You don't see it a whole lot.
I don't remember that. I don't remember that specific scene actually.
Oh, dude, that's from the drawing of the 3 where we recruit Eddie. They throw his brother's head in there, and he's naked, and he runs out, gunning them down, buck naked, and
he was high on coke or something, right?
Yeah, heroin.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because he was the heroin junkie, but he's high on heroin, but he was buck naked, and he came out fighting and shooting, and Roland was real proud of him. Because it's like most men can't fight when they're like that. They worry too much about it. You didn't even worry about it. You just jumped in there.
Yeah.
But Vigo did that in Eastern Promises. Remember they attacked him in that steam bath?
Yeah, but that was a completely different scenario. So when I think of that it was different because it fit the setting.
That's true. That is true.
They attacked him there specifically because they knew he'd be vulnerable. He wouldn't have any of his weapons on him, and then clothes do help you sometimes in a fight, right? Protect you a little bit. Yeah. So that's why I kind of separate that scenario out from the other two.
That's true. And but I'm with you. I do not like seeing Huey being excited by this.
Yeah. His reaction to this whole situation between the drug-seeking behavior and then when he does get access to it, his reaction to it, it's all the wrong signs that you don't want to see this.
Yeah.
says, Butcher. Butcher says, all right, look, hang about. says, you and Huey both took Compound V? What are you two, soups now? Butcher says, temporary V. Kamiko aggressively signs something to Butcher. Frenchie translates. Oh, she say, why do you do this to yourself on purpose? Butcher says, only lasts 24 hours, all right? Break glass in case of emergencies, like this one. Frenchie says, and you give this to Huey? Butcher says, I didn't give it to him. The thieving git must have broken into the case and nicked it. Butcher is pissed. He gives Huey a look. Butcher continues, let's just find this thing and get the out of here, all right? Gives Huey a disgusted look and says, you're better than this, kid. Huey says, Butcher, I'm sorry, okay? He's kind of laughing a little bit. Butcher turns and gives Huey the look a father gives their child, which says it all. The one where you don't need to say anything, then he just walks off. Kamiko walks by and shakes her head.
Now, I love how this is expected from Butcher, that everyone just expects Huey to take the high road. And he's not just Butcher's canary; he's the whole team's canary.
Yeah. And
I didn't really realize that kind of until then. You just thought more of a Butcher, but to have Butcher kind of act like this, it's like you were acting just worse than that. And the last when you did V and even earlier, so it's like, come on now.
Yeah.
But he can look down on Huey doing the same thing. It's like, okay.
Well, like he views it as a curse, right?
Maybe he just saw. Well, I don't know if he views it as a curse. He sees anything as, I think Butcher sees anything as an ends to a means.
Well,
or means to an ends.
I'm referencing that conversation Huey and him had earlier where he was saying you don't deserve it and it's bad for you and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, and it is. But at the same time, I don't know. It's like, is that just the excuse he's telling himself so he can take it to hopefully try and take out Homelander? But now he doesn't have any V.
Yeah.
That we know of.
Wait, could you repeat that? He doesn't have any V?
Doesn't have any V left. He had 3 doses.
Well, no, he was pulling a little bit out at a time. He could get multiple. To me, the way it looked was he'd get multiple doses out of the vials each time. But I might be.
I thought, because I thought it was I thought she specifically said it's 3 doses.
Okay, it might be. Yeah.
And if it's 3 doses, Wendy's used R3. And in the comic books,
no, he's gonna get some more. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. Yeah. Because he's got they've got to face off. Him and Homelander have got to duke it.
For sure.
Yeah. I'm hoping that's what we're building this season to, aren't you?
You got to have that scene. You got to have it. They talked about
that
sit down. Yeah. In Butcher's apartment.
So much so that I bought Heat. I bought Heat because of that reference. What do you want?
Nice.
Come on.
Butcher walks up to a large circular steel holding cell.
Now you knew it was Soldier Boy.
Yeah, man. They ruined it in the previews for the season.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
No, they did.
He rips the door off. After the smoke clears, we see a heavily bearded Soldier Boy is contained within. He wakes up. Butcher whispers, Soldier Boy. is paralyzed. Interesting response from
Yeah.
Soldier Boy rips the...
I'm assuming that as a child who has suffered from PTSD from this whatever Soldier Boy, the murder of his family, I'm sure it probably takes him right back to that moment.
Yeah.
I'm sure he probably feels like that little 8 to 10-year-old little boy that was there and helpless when it happened, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Soldier Boy rips the breathing mask off of his face and exits the cell. He's naked. He turns to Frenchie, and Frenchie says, it's okay, trying to calm him. Suddenly, the metal at Soldier Boy's feet begins to move and float off the ground. His chest begins to glow with energy. Kamiko runs and pushes Frenchie out of the way. Soldier Boy unleashes a blast of energy, and it fully hits Kamiko, launching her against the wall. Soldier Boy yells as he unleashes this wave of energy. He turns and walks out. No one tries to stop him. MM is still paralyzed. Frenchie runs up to Kamiko and finds she isn't healing from her wounds. She has a piece of rebar impaling her torso. The boys are driving in the van, running from the facility. Frenchie and MM are trying to administer first aid to Kamiko. Huey is in the front passenger seat. His right arm is hanging out the window, and his vascular system is glowing gold. He's smiling. And again, he's not concerned about Kamiko.
Mm-hmm.
He's only concerned about this power right now. And the thing about this that bothers me is we need Captain America from him. We don't need this behavior from him, right? Because you hope somebody that was weak initially, they turn into somebody like Captain America where they remember what it's like to be bullied, and then now that they have the power, they do the right thing and protect other people, right? And it seems like he's letting this power go to his head.
It might very well be, but he could also just be on the, pardon my air quotes here, of the high from saving MM. I mean, finally being able to save somebody that he loves, that's a friend of his, is, a pretty big deal.
I don't know, man. The way he's looking at the veins, and he's just like...
Well, Huey's such a straight-laced kid.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only thing he's ever done is drink, maybe smoked a little weed.
Mm-hmm.
So, shooting up V is probably, especially if you turned out not turning into some weird, not dying from it and having a semi-positive experience. I mean, it's his first time really getting high.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm not okaying this, and I'm agreeing with you. He is expressing this can be a very bad thing, and I'm hoping it's just served to wake Butcher up and realize that, well, maybe I shouldn't be doing this too, because now I've turned the kid into a V junkie.
Right.
So let's hope not, but I don't like that. I don't like how he's behaving with it as well. I agree with you.
Yeah. MM keeps telling Kamiko to open her eyes to keep her conscious. He says, "Hold her head up, Frenchie." Frenchie says, "Mon coeur." He keeps trying to get her to respond. Finally, they get her to open her eyes. MM tells her, "Look at Frenchie." Butcher says, "Soldier Boy was always a hard bastard, but not like that. They must have done something to him." He looks at MM in the mirror and says, "What you think?" MM looks at him and says, "It's over, Butcher. There ain't no team for me to hold together no more. You made sure of that." Huey is completely unengaged from the conversation. He's just basking in the glow of the V-24 high.
Mm-hmm.
#homelight walk out onto the red carpet at some event. The paparazzi are going crazy taking pictures of them. Some of the crowd are waving Dawn of the Seven posters, so maybe that launch campaign is still going. Homelander turns to Starlight and says, "Hey, you know what? I think I want to fly home. You want to fly?" She says, "The car's right here. Next time?" Homelander says, No. Come on. I'll carry you." He yells out to the crowd, "Who wants to see Starlight and me fly, huh?" The crowd cheers with excitement. Homelander says, "What, are you going to disappoint them?" She says, "Okay." He picks her up and says, "Come on, up you go. There you go. I have a view I really want to show you. It's going to blow your mind. Hold on tight." He lands softly on a rooftop and says, "This really is a beautiful city." She says, "You don't need to do this. The cameras are gone." He says, "Yeah, but see, there's the thing about me, Starlight. If I promise something, I deliver. Now that is the view of a lifetime." As he's speaking, he turns around and points at something. Starlight takes a moment, then realizes what she's looking at. We are shown the corpse of Supersonic. It's laying on the roof in pieces. The Homelander has ripped off one of his legs, and his face is like completely destroyed.
Yeah.
She says, Alex, oh my God, you psycho."
And I'm sorry that this is what it took for me to be able to trust the late Supersonic. But I was really shocked. That took me by surprise.
Yeah, this scene really rocked me, man. Like completely unexpected. And
absolutely.
Like I really liked him as a character. I was like, yes, we got another character I can get behind, and it's going to be cool. And I guess they did that on purpose.
Yeah, they like to pull that rug out from you sometimes.
Yeah, man. And this is a particularly gruesome scene to look at too. It's really bad. Yeah.
You know what's bad is it looks like for the damage done to him, the scary part is his Homelander probably just grabbed him, and that's how he probably pulled his leg up and then popped him in the face. Is all it looked like. It's like that one shot just destroyed him. But there must have been more because I think he got some information from him. So
I see.
Maybe not.
She turns to Homelander and her eyes begin to glow. He says this, he laughs, actually. He says, "Stop it. You know how that ends. You know, besides, this is your fault as much as it is mine." She asks, "What?" Homelander says, "A-Train told me about you two mutineers and your little plot. You just don't get it, do you? I mean, you have no grasp of the situation you're in at all, right? I'm going to break it down one more time, and I'm going to make it crystal clear so that even you can understand it, okay? There will be no more plotting, planning, playing around. That is over, okay? From here on out, there is only my dutiful, loving main squeeze Starlight, worshiping me and me alone. Because if you step 1 inch out of line, I mean, if you so much as blink the wrong way, then that, my love, will be Huey. Do you understand this time?" She's crying. She nods. Homelander says, "Good. Then say it, so I know. That'll be Huey." She repeats, "That'll be Huey." He says, "There it is." He pats her on the shoulder and says, "Find your own way home," then flies off.
Wow.
Starlight is left there to process the situation on her own. Now, I didn't catch that thing about A-Train the first time, but he's such a POS, man. Like, he did this so he could try to get back in Homelander's good graces over the deep. I was beginning to feel a bit sorry for him, but he really is irredeemable now. He's really a piece of crap.
Well, and again, remember, our introduction, as I said earlier, was A-Train killing Huey's woman.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, and has never expressed any remorse or anything whatsoever. Has never apologized. You know, he helped them to help him get back on the 7 in last season, but that was purely self-motivated, as we know. So, again, the only members that were good are Starlight and Maeve on occasion, and I guess the late Alex. I'm sorry, Alex. Yeah. Took that to gain my trust.
Yeah, man. I really liked him as a character, and it sucks that he's gone. I was liking him
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he would have been helpful, like we talked about, feeding Starlight's powers.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, that would have been cool to see like a team up like that where he like pushes electricity into her and it like supercharges her or something like that.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
She could have stood a chance. That would have been her chance against Homelander.
Yeah,
I think.
And the characters I like are starting to be outnumbered by those I don't, man.
It's kind of scary.
It is.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah. And that's how the episode ends.
Yeah. And I think that it has to be like this, killing off people that we care about always increases the stakes, makes us appreciate the show more sometimes if they're willing to kill people. Certain folks, I won't go in deeper into the stuff I have listed here, but you and I understand about good novels raising the stakes by killing people that hurt when they die.
Yes.
We have a shared experience. Thank you.
Absolutely.
But I'm kind of curious to see what if Homelander will grow to be like, is he trying to grow into be like the true tyrant dictator causing, are we having sides being formed here? Is he trying to form a 7 where he's just kind of running around like the gods of Olympus doing what they want to do? I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah. I really was tempted to push ahead, but I was like, nope, not going to watch it. Not going to watch till we record this episode. So
I like saying I've really enjoyed watching it week by week. It's been giving me something to really look forward to.
Yeah.
I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah. So what are your standout moments?
And for an episode that didn't, I feel like there wasn't a lot of certain stuff going on, but there was a lot of other action, different actions. We had the A-Train and the deep beef. I like Vicky betraying Edgar, Mr. Edgar. I was so surprised by that.
Yeah, that was cold-blooded, man. But I see why she did it. He was using her, and she wants to protect her daughter. He was kind of putting her in a compromised position.
Yes, I think he absolutely was, and I love the Kamiko's French. Everything about Frenchie and Kamiko, her fight scene inside the Russian oligarch's place. Yes, yes, with the wedding utensils. But I love their relationship growing. Like she says that it's just me and you, that kind of stuff. I love that.
Yeah.
And Jamie. I hope we see him again.
Yeah, definitely. Frenchie's pet. That'd be great.
Yeah. That would be great. Absolutely great. And then Homelander knowing that Victoria's the head popper was a big one for me too.
Yeah.
I don't know why it struck me so. I mean, he showed his source real quick, but just the fact that he knew it is just kind of one of those things, or knows it, or whatever. But it's just that he knows it now is all that matters.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I thought that butcher scene in the military compound was really cool. Really well done between the music and the slow motion. Yeah. I thought that was awesome. And then that final scene with Homelander revealing he killed Supersonic. The way he was acting before that, he was so normal and just being cheerful and, hey, I want to show you this view and all this other stuff. And then he takes you there to reveal this horror without missing a beat. He's turning into a really interesting villain this season, man.
He's becoming a great villain. I don't want to jinx it, but I'm really loving it. And he's becoming so interesting. And I hope they carry through with some of his craziness that he's threatened. I want to see him take out the city. I'm sorry, New York, but it's what you get for being so pretentious and calling yourself the city. You'll get the Homelander on you. Sorry. I apologize, New York. I'm not trying to alienate y'all. I do love y'all. I'm being facetious. Sorry. And I was wrong about Supersonic, but I was right about the tube with Soldier Boy. Everybody, dude, a blind man could have seen that one coming.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Any final thoughts about from you, man, that was really stood out other than what we covered?
I really liked this episode.
I did too.
I had the rug pulled out for me multiple times this episode. Then these darker episodes where like that ending with like I was really shocked by just how gruesome that death was. And
Homelander, wow.
Yeah. That was really crazy. And then the scene in the Russian compound, I wasn't that big on the Kimiko fight scene. It was all right.
Right. It wasn't her greatest. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was not consequential. It was just something. It was kind of a fun thing.
Yeah.
It was our action for the episode. It was our super. Well, I say we had more than I realized, but overall a great episode. And now I want to jump back real quick to where we talked about teleportation.
Mm-hmm.
If used properly, we got two examples of where teleportation can be linked to time travel. We have Heroes and Umbrella Academy, where the teleporters can time jump too if they're not careful.
Yeah, but that's not how it was here.
No, it was very much. It was. Now he may be able to teleport far. I mean, if he's only able to teleport 2 foot, then that's pretty useless. But he was strong enough to punch through somebody wearing body armor.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so I mean, at this point, we assume they all have some type of increased strength. Mesmer did not, but
Mesmer is
the Gecko didn't seem to either.
Maybe Mesmer has survived and will rise to be our Lex Luthor-ish. And
come on, Matt.
Sorry.
You got to be kind of good to be, because like if we're flipping it so the Superman equivalent is bad, then you have to have Lex Luthor be good. Right.
Yeah, a real good guy. Yeah. Like Huey, but better.
Huey is disappointing me now.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do to redeem him, but he's going down a bad path and it's not good.
It is not, but
we'll see what MM's going to do.
Yeah. I'm curious. I'm also, Kimiko, we got to get that girl well too.
Yeah.
I don't like that she's not able to heal. I'm just hoping it's an effect from Soldier Boy's blast, which apparently is a new feature.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's radiation or something.
It's kind of like Havoc, right? The one of the X-Men. Yeah.
Right out of the chest. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's Cyclops' brother.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's very similar to that, but I'm curious if it's radiation, if that's why she's unable to heal, or what the Russians have done to him. They've done something.
Yeah.
Does he remember who he is? I mean, I'm going to assume he doesn't know who he is. We don't know yet, though.
Right,
it's too early.
Right. We'll see where he shows up next. Cool.
Yeah.
So
I'm looking for
all right. Good job tonight. Yeah. Thanks. We thank you all for joining us today.
Again, we really like to thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we've had a really great time talking about the topic today.
If you would like to support our show, you can find us at horsefrogproductions.com, where you can find our Patreon link. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description.
And if you'd like to contact us through email, it's at contact@horsefrogproductions.com.